Okay, it's 2:30 on June 13th, 2016. We have a quorum, and it's a meeting of the Board of Elections at our offices in Montgomery County. I just wanted to say that we opened this meeting with heavy hearts, and I know I feel, I'm sure the rest of us feel, our hearts go out to the people in Orlando. It's terrible, and our hearts and prayers go out to the victims and the families. And our prayers are with them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President, for mentioning that.
Okay, approval of minutes.
Which minute, Mr. President?
Well-
We have so many.
David's the main author of...
We start from April 18.
I know,
I
but
just
I
put them in
think we should
order.
wait for David, since he's made most of the changes,
That's the first one.
you know?
Yeah.
We have April 18, April 26.
There's 4 sets of minutes, and each minute
Yes.
has 2 sets. So there is the original set, and then David's edits.
Right.
Well, yeah, I
And I
mean,
put them in order.
as a courtesy to David, I mean, he's coming. I think we should wait, because they're his edits. Anybody disagree with that? Or?
No, and I have when we discuss it, I'd like to raise an issue about it and make a suggestion, so that's fine.
Okay,
Okay, so that will be laid over.
right. And in terms of the agenda, I've asked Margaret to add in old business the discussion about how we review letters and a process to expedite the return correspondence that we're getting.
Old business?
Yeah,
Okay.
under old business.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
public comments. Lisa, do we have?
No.
No one has asked to speak in advance, and we do have someone who'd like to address the board.
Sure.
That is Jacob Gallagher.
Welcome, Jacob. Come on up. Let's see, maybe sit down there because...
side?
Okay. Well, welcome.
I just had an interesting experience with the primary election, and I know I wish I could have made it to the earlier May meetings, but I haven't scheduled time to make it before. So I registered. I was originally registered as a Green Party, and I moved here last fall in August, and but when I went to, and then in January I switched to Democrat, and on January 5th. And it does say so on the online voter registration record.
You said it does say so?
It does, yeah.
Right.
I can pass this around. On January 5th, it shows I switched to Democrat. However, when I went to vote on primary day, it still had me registered as a Green Party, and I wasn't able to vote. They gave me a provisional ballot. You know, I tried to explain, no, I did change it, and it's confirmed. But on their system, which should be, I don't know, the same system theoretically, right, or connected to it, it said that I had changed from Green Party to Green Party on the same date, on January 5th, is what it was showing, which I thought was very odd.
Jacob, can I ask you a question? Did you get a sample ballot in the mail for the election?
Not that I recall.
Did you get any kind of a card or a letter from the board notifying you of your registration?
Not that I remember.
Do you not have a voter registration card?
I have my original one from when I first moved here. I registered as Green Party, but I didn't get an updated one that said Democrat. And it didn't, even though it said, and now it says I am a Democrat. So like after the election, at some point, it switched back to Democrat on the online registration. But I was given a provisional ballot, and my provisional ballot was rejected based on party affiliate, because it's a closed primary, obviously.
Yeah.
And in this, it says.
Well, those are further checked out just for this kind of situation.
Okay.
So it must have still been reading Green Party when the staff reviewed it. Would that be the case, Margaret?
This is the first I'm hearing of this specific issue.
Yeah,
We
I'm
can
hoping
certainly
it's an
ask
isolated
Jeff-
problem.
I can have Jessica research it and get back to you.
But it said here, Democrat, it said clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I will have to ask.
Sure, I'm not asking for like, yeah, I know, you
No,
probably don't have
thank
like
you.
an
Do you
exact.
I
Thank
think when
for
you checked
bringing-
in, the poll book that the person had in front of them showed you as registered green.
Green,
And
yeah.
this was on, you went on election day?
Yes.
April 26th?
April 26th. And they showed me the screen, and it said, and but the weird thing is, it didn't show my original registration date. It showed the same date, January 5th, at
Will he
which
get a
when I
provision?
switched.
He got a provisional, but
Okay.
then
What,
it
do you
wasn't
happen to know
counted.
your precinct?
1347.
1347?
Yeah.
Pardon me for being late, but did you say that you changed your party affiliation on the date that is on that printout?
Yeah.
Where it says it says registration date, but that's actually a change of party date.
Yeah.
January 5th.
From green to
From green to
But
Democrat.
on election day, it said I changed from green to green.
And when did you print that out?
Well, I just printed it yesterday.
May I ask you, Jacob, you printed this from where? What website did you go to?
The Montgomery County.gov. That
Or 777vote.org, maybe?
Well, if
If
you,
No,
you
it
went
was
to
the-
our county website,
Yeah.
www.77vote, that link takes you to the state board of elections
Yeah.
website. So
Yeah.
that would be where.
And I would say, you indicated on your provisional that you wanted to be affiliated with the Democratic Party. Once
Yes.
registration reopened, we have gone through a process to all those changes. So that would have updated you at that point. I would have to research my own
Yeah,
as to why
that's
the party
why.
change didn't happen. There have been instances, though, where people have interacted with the online system more than once. Don't know if it's a refresh issue, what
How
happened.
did you go about
And
changing
so, it changes it back, kind of process like really starts with.
You need
Right, but
to,
that's weird
Yeah, I
because
can go
it doesn't
research
say it
it.
changed after election day. Like when it says I changed it to Democrat in January. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting,
Like,
but they had
so
to
it's
go.
not from my provisional ballot that it's changed to Democrat.
The print off is from just a few days ago, correct?
Yeah, I didn't print it until
Right.
before I came.
And did you change it by doing it online?
Yes, I did do it online, not in person. And here, this is the same from the same website that the provisional ballot was rejected.
But you didn't print out anything when you went online and changed your party
The original
registration?
No, I just felt confident that it had worked. It seemed clear,
Sure.
so I didn't give it a second thought.
Sure.
In retrospect, it would have been helpful just for records. Yeah, so I'm just hopeful that this is an isolated case, that there wasn't like any other.
We hope so too.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
With people switching parties, and I wonder how many provisional ballots were rejected for similar party change issues.
Well, we
And-
did encounter situations where I think people who voted for a particular candidate prior to general election thought because they did that, their party affiliation had changed, when actually they had not changed it. That's a different situation that you're
Right.
describing,
No,
which
I
is a
did-
purposeful change.
Right, I didn't
in
even
order-
live here before. This is the first time I've been able to vote in Maryland.
What state were you registered in before?
New York.
Well, thank you for your,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I just-
well, we're going to get back, Margaret.
How
We
and
will
why
get
is
back
that?
we're
to
gonna
you.
check into it.
Oh, good.
We'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks, and hopefully it doesn't.
Thanks so much.
Thank you
Sorry.
for your interest.
And tell me your last name again.
Dalager, D-A-L-A-G-E-R. I put my phone number on the thing, but I can give you my email address.
Yeah, Miss White just went
The
somewhere to
office.
check. You want to wait a second for her? I don't know if she's,
I
Sure.
don't think we'll be able to get it completed because it's provisional.
Okay.
We actually have to go through papers to find it,
okay.
so I would.
Mr. Gallagher, you can put your email address on the sheet,
Okay.
and then we'll make sure you get you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
David, I knew you were coming, so we put the...
We baked a cake.
we put the discussion on the minutes until you got here.
Okay, thank you.
So I think,
And I'm sorry to have missed the beginning of that presentation.
no, we just started, no problem.
We're going to April 18th.
So let's go back to the approval of minutes. So we'll start with April 18th.
18 is good. Earlier one.
Okay.
What's April
The
26th?
latest?
No,
April
April,
26th as well.
April
18th.
26th is
I have
the
Well,
April
birthday.
18
No,
too.
April 18th is the first.
Oh,
I have
you're out of order
18th,
here.
yes.
Okay.
April
Right.
18th.
I have it by
April
order.
18th.
May
Now-
16th.
Yes, yes.
So
You need
We have
a,
four
We're doing
separate-
April
okay,
18
you
now.
need a motion?
So David, you're the one in red?
I'm the one in red. Well, I haven't looked at what was handed out to us, but I assume if it's like usual, I'm the only one who comments and I'd be the one
Lisa,
in red.
David's the red?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the black is the
So
original.
I would move approval of the minutes with my suggested changes.
I think maybe we should have a separate motion for each set of minutes.
Yes,
Yeah, we will.
We're doing.
So we'll do
Yeah,
April
I'm
18th.
sorry, I only meant to do it for April 18th.
All right, so
I announce,
David's got a motion. We should have a second and then discussion.
a second.
Mr. Board President, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify that again, you do have two sets of minutes in front of you, two sets of drafts for April 18th.
Oh, we do?
He said with his changes.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yes.
Well,
clarify.
shouldn't we be working off the one with the red?
That's up to
With
you.
the red is easy, we can see it.
The red are the ones that have track changes, the others are the original,
Yes,
the
yeah.
original
Oh,
ones that
right,
went
right.
out.
Yes,
Right, okay.
okay. We have two sets. One set original, the other one with Davy with the red. It's easy. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so we have a second. Welcome,
I
Jackie.
did second.
Hi, Jackie.
Good seeing you. Okay, discussion.
Yeah, Mr. President, on page 5, Mr. Naaman has made a correction to the paragraph Loretta Garcia. According to the tape, she did in fact state Election Law 3-202B. Mr. Naaman is correct that the correct citation is 2-303B. However, Ms. Garcia did make a statement, and the minutes should reflect what was said, not necessarily what may be correct.
I recall her incorrectly citing the election law article. I remember making a note of it. Maybe we should put a sick in brackets or something.
Well, how about if we were to put in brackets actually 2303B?
But she said 3202B.
No, I understand. You would leave hers in.
Right.
Because she did say it, and then you'd put in brackets, actually 2303B, because that's the actual, because if we put sick, no one's necessarily going to know what was wrong with it.
What was the reason you put in 2303B without indicating that was not what she actually said?
Because I was concerned that someone would do like I did, which is look up 3202B and discover that it's
But
not there.
that's she said.
Yeah, I understand. I
Better
don't. I'm
reflect
not.
accurate minutes.
I'm not objecting to that. I think that the idea of putting something in brackets is a better idea than what I suggested here.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're all assuming we know what she meant, but I think it should reflect what she actually said. If you want to, I'd be in favor of putting in a sick to indicate that it's not accurate, so it might alert someone, but I think we should probably leave it at that.
Well, given that it's very clear what she believes the statute says.
David, whatever she said, you
No.
always listen to the tape.
No, I do.
So
I
the
do.
tape said
I do.
3-202B,
like I
and
said,
we stay with it. That's
like
it.
like I said, I am fine with saying 3202B. That is what she said. I think that if you say sick, that you're doing a good job of pointing out that she was incorrect, and a bad job of informing whoever reads the minutes of what the actual statutory provision is.
No, I don't.
But that's the thing is we're all assuming we knew what she meant.
Yeah.
We probably do know what she meant, but nobody really corrected her or said what the actual statute was in the discussion. That's the problem.
No one said sick either, but I mean, obviously, we're going to put a commentary. We can put a commentary. I'm fine with no commentary. If you want to leave it the way she said it,
Yes.
we can.
All right.
Can.
Okay,
If
let's
we
do
want to
that.
be accurate, we just put the way she said it.
So we're just going to say she stated that election law 3202B?
Right. That she said it.
Right,
We don't know what's in our mind.
okay.
If I'm correct, the minutes have gone from 9 pages to 14 pages. And I think I'm going to take issue here with my friend and colleague, Mr. Naaman, for really getting back to, or maybe going beyond, these extensive minutes. And I know that we had, some discussion early on in our current term with what kind of minutes we were going to have, and there was hearty debate on having very limited minutes because we had the tape. Going back to when I think I was responsible for getting the board to do more extensive minutes in the last term. However, recognizing that it was after that we got the tape, we started taping, and we had a discussion at that time about did we need these minutes then as, detailed as they were becoming. What I would like to suggest at this point, because I really think they're getting too detailed again, and we understand staff has come to us about the issue and the time, etc. There's nothing really in error in the minutes that we're receiving. It's just that I believe you think that they need to be fuller in their explanation here.
I'll be happy to explain my own thinking.
I would like to suggest that we look to putting a notification on the minutes in the beginning of them, both for our purposes, but most importantly, when they are posted online, that would link directly to the site where people can go and hear, and explaining that. The meeting in its entirety can be heard at the following, and link it. That perhaps that's a way to get around this really tremendous amount of time that's not just spent with your review and edits, but everybody else then reading and rereading and staff's presentation, not to mention the trees that we're killing producing all the paper.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. President?
David, can I say example? Can I say something? Page 9. Toward the end, your correction said Mr. Newman requested. The whole explanation is not necessary. Because
I'm sorry,
we said whoever
where are you?
can-
Which explanation you're
Page
referring
9, your correction, page 9, said
David.
toward the end. The one with the red mark. The whole thing is not necessary. We said those who cannot pick them up, they will pick them up later or something. Then explaining the whole scenario is not necessary, really. Because we already said it.
Are you asking for a response?
Yeah, that taking almost 3/4 page of minute. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. For starters, it's not actually accurate that the minutes are as much longer as Mary Ann said. If you look at pages 2 and 3, what you will notice is, and look at it in both documents. Look at it in the document that doesn't have my corrections and the document that does. And what you will notice is that the document that has my corrections is spaced differently than the document that doesn't. So I have not added 5 pages of material, not even close. It is an exaggeration to suggest that. Number 2, the reason why I felt it was important to give the rationale that was in the discussion about the accommodation of the religious holiday is because the decision was made unilaterally by our staff afterward not to do what we said, and we said it very explicitly. And the minutes before that merely indicated that I had requested arrangements and that Ms. Jurgensen responded that the recruiters will work with the chief judges to schedule a supply pickup. That is not what we agreed to in our meeting. It is inaccurate. It was not done because I think there should be fuller minutes. It was done because I think the minutes should reflect what was said. And as we just agreed on the other portion of the minutes, it certainly should apply to uniformly if we think the minutes should reflect what was said. And if you look at what I did add, I added things that were clarifying. I added things that there are instances, if you really want me to go through line by line, there are instances where things were inaccurate. and there are things that were incomplete. The person who spends the most time on this by far is me. And I'm sorry if you all feel put upon because I'm reviewing the minutes and others are not reviewing them in as much detail as I am. I am being guided by what's on the tape, or on the recording, I should say. But I also am very sensitive to the idea that if somebody says something, especially if I say something that is being given what I consider to be insufficient explanation, I think that it's not unreasonable to add corrections. If you will look, in reality, what I've added is I've added a paragraph at the bottom of page 3. I've made minor changes in other places. I added a paragraph, maybe a paragraph and a half on pages 9 and 10. That is not 5 pages worth of material. That is caused by the spacing.
We don't have problem you changing a little bit there's some of the grammar or some of that, but explaining the whole situation and mentioning the names, say blah, 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 that's too much.
Well, that
We can say it a little bit less, but get the same effect.
In the case of what I've added to these particular minutes, it is not the same to say less. To say less is to leave out the fact that this board spent 20 minutes on that subject that is of great importance to a lot of our judges. We took action. We did it as a group. It was not simply my opinion. It was everyone's opinion. And the fact that we did that, especially since we told people that we did that, should be reflected in the minutes because that's what happened. It is not accurate to say what happened is that I raised a concern and Margaret said the recruiters will handle it. That wasn't where it
How
ended.
about if we do the shorter version and go by Marianne's idea that we tell them the tape is available, you're welcome to go and listen to 10-hour testimony or whatever. How about that?
I would be happy to consider that for the future. I don't think it's appropriate to retroactively, after we're discussing specific issues, make a change in how we do our minutes. What I'm suggesting here is that there are specific instances where the minutes are not accurately reflecting what the board did and that they should do so. I have no problem with having, I've suggested multiple times when we've had these discussions in the past, I am more than happy to have references in the minutes to the recording in order to make the minutes less complicated. But that does not, this is not simply a question of the number of words. This is a question of the words being an accurate reflection of what happened.
Mr. President,
Alex?
I agree with Mary Ann. I think she's right. I appreciate Mr. Naaman's efforts in making these corrections and reviewing this stuff, but I think we have reached a point where we are going in the wrong direction. If there's something, for example, on page 9 that is blatantly inaccurate or is a misrepresentation, then we should correct it. But I think we should be able to say in one sentence, or maybe two, what the nature of the discussion was. I think that the detail that's provided in pages 9 and 10 is not necessary. And I think we're getting this mission creep, and we're starting to go back to more and more detail. Now, it may not have added 5 pages, but I've counted it added a single page additional text. And I just think that it's already very detailed as it is. I could say the same thing about page 3. There was an entire new paragraph there referencing Mrs. Keefe and the whole idea about the interaction, about the visit to the rescue squad. I think we've got to make a decision on it's not simply about if we're going to state something, it has to state accurately what was stated. That's true for things that we decide to include, but drafting minutes calls for some exercise of judgment as to what points are important to mention. Because I think most of us would agree that it's not supposed to be a verbatim transcript or even a summary of every single comment and point that was made.
All of us would agree on that point.
David, may I ask you a question? You made a comment that, can you reference, how do you reference the tape on paper?
I don't know. That's why I'm suggesting that we do it for the future. I'm suggesting
I
that,
think that's a good idea.
I'm
just
suggesting,
don't
I'm
know if I'm
suggesting,
listening to the tape.
I'm
or
suggesting-
reading this, can I say paragraph, see paragraph?
I'm suggesting that what we
10.
can do is we can make references to, when you go to the tape, you can make references to a specific number of hours, minutes, and seconds if you want to indicate where a particular conversation takes place. Although for the May 16th meeting, the meeting is actually repeated 3 times on the tape, so you have to look at it differently. But I have no problem with making references to those meetings. If Alex wants to move to amend to take out my further detail on what happened with the Wheaton Rescue Squad decision, which was a big decision that affected everybody, affected a community, affected the entire board, etc., then he can make a motion to remove it, and I'll vote against it. And if you guys want to outvote me, outvote me. I personally believe that discussion was a very important part of the meeting.
I just specifically asked the one question.
Right.
How do you reference something?
I think
In
that
the minutes, that's all the tape. How is it
there
done?
are a number of ways to do that. You could have a reference in the minutes that says, for further detail, go to X website, which is the YouTube the YouTube link, starting at X number of minutes, X number of seconds, or approximately starting at, etc.
Well,
How about
my
you said like
suggestion on that
Marianne
was
said?
just to reference
Right,
the...
toward the end.
Exactly. Have a link there, they
Toward
can
the end.
click on it, they can go right to the meeting.
Except toward the
We
end.
all know
Is that the
that
motion?
No,
You're still
because
talking.
we have a motion on the
Excuse me,
floor,
but I
which is
thought
the
that Jim
minutes.
was the chair.
Well, I was just trying to get clarification.
Okay.
We're still discussing. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
but they're
David.
writing note, yeah, go ahead.
David, go ahead.
We all know that it's a lot easier for people to read the minutes than listen to the recording. The recording takes a lot of time to listen to. So the idea that we are going to do less detail, particularly in the portions of the minutes where there has been some controversy, and that is definitely the portions that we're talking about. We're talking about a portion of the meeting where we talked about the Wheaton Rescue Squad site being moved, and the portion of the meeting where we're talking about the accommodations for our judges who were not able to work on the weekend before the election. And my own belief is that it should be in the minutes that I've added essentially 2 paragraphs, and it's already added. There's not any additional work that's required in order to do this. I've done all the work for this. All you have to do is decide if there's anything I've added that's inaccurate. I added it based on listening to the recording. But if you want to say less, then go ahead and propose to say less. But I have no problem with if we want to talk about how to handle these things for the future. I think that it's a very bad precedent to decide that we are going to change how we do the minutes because you don't like a particular suggestion. After the fact. I mean, we all received the same minutes, and what I have done is to attempt to make them reflect what happened at the meeting.
Marianne?
I am not suggesting that we are changing how we're doing the minutes. We have had this discussion now back and forth a little bit ad nauseum, and when last discussed at length, we came to a compromise to see if, because the minutes were going to be greatly reduced, and I really didn't want to see that. And so the hope was that, they would continue to prepare the minutes in the vein that we had been moving in, and but with a caution to the board members to not edit them to death because of the time it was taking the staff, and we reduced the review that was needed, etc. But I am just saying I would like to go back to where we had been and where we agreed when we had that compromise a few months ago to say that, you know, we're going to produce full minutes in the vein that we had been, but we're really going to be very cautious of the amount of editing that we request.
Any other comment,
Mr.
Alex?
President, very briefly, I think in response to what David has said, it's not a zero-sum game. We're not talking about the fact that if we do not accept the paragraph change on pages 3 and 4, that somehow an important issue that was discussed by the board is not being reflected or accurately reflected. I think I agree with him that the issue with the Wheaton Rescue Squad was important, but there is a lot of discussion about that. But I don't think it's necessary to talk about the whole issue about the tour that was taken. So it's a question of not whether the issue was covered, but whether the additional change is really necessary to convey the importance of the discussion and the issues that truly were at stake. My second point would just be a question to David. Are there any other changes other than the one in the reference to the statutory section that you've made that do not reflect what was actually said at the meeting?
No. And in answer to your other point, I do believe that the fact that board members were not aware that the tour was taking place is an important bit of context for our conversation about the Wheaton Rescue Squad. Of course, different board members heard at different times. I learned about the Wheaton Rescue Squad sitting at this board table. I think that I think it's an important bit of context.
There's no further comment? All right, so the motion on the floor is to adopt the minutes with David's edits. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No. That fails. So we have the minutes as presented to us. Do we have a motion to accept them as prepared by Lisa? Or do we
First
have-
of all, we have to go by Marianne's suggestion. We have to move on that one, whether we agree with.
I didn't make a
motion.
motion.
Should we make a motion?
I'll make a motion on that outside of the minutes. I don't think it can affect, well, yeah, because these haven't gone online yet. Okay, I will make a motion then. I would like to move that we attach at the beginning of the motions a link with an explanation that the meeting in its entirety can be heard at the following, and linking the recording, so that people will have up front, and that needs to be online when we put these online, so that people will be able to readily, as they're reading through here and they want to find more information on a particular subject matter, they can go into the tape,
May I
which
suggest
they
a
might not
friendly amendment?
otherwise find.
Let me suggest as an amendment for your consideration to put that link not only in the minutes themselves, but on the web page that links to the minutes, so that if people want to go straight to the audio,
Yes.
they can do that from the minutes
Yeah,
page.
good point. I second that.
Is your motion also including acceptance of the,
No,
Separate?
we're doing that because then that would affect these minutes
Yes.
once they're done, I think.
And so for clarification purposes, because I either misheard or whatever, you want us to attach at the beginning of the minutes a statement of where they can, with the link, taking them to the audio page where they can select those minutes and listen to it. And on our page with the minutes on it, also on that page of the website, put a link to the audio page.
Which was Mr. Naaman's
Yes.
amendment. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right,
Oh,
so it's
that's-
at the beginning of each set of minutes,
Okay.
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
I second that.
any further
With
discussion?
David,
Do we have an amended motion, or do we have a motion?
No, we need a motion with the amendment, I think.
I made the motion, David made an amendment.
Before it was seconded,
And
so
I
there's
second.
so there's no need to vote on the amendment if you were,
Right.
if you were accepting.
It'll change the overall motion to include that language.
Mary Ann's motion includes David's amendment. Is there a second?
I did.
Any further discussion?
I have a question. Does the motion strictly talk about that reference, or does it talk about how the minutes will be prepared? It's just about adding the references to the recording. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that passes. So now we need to go back to the April 18th minutes. We haven't approved them. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as we received them from Lisa?
Yes, I move we accept the minute the way Lisa put back, the first one.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? David?
I'd like to propose an amendment. It would be on page 3 of Lisa's version in the first full paragraph. I would like to replace as they differ at the end of the first line of that paragraph with as they sound slightly different. And I would explain that as they differ suggests that I had accused Mr. Fogel of saying something different publicly and privately, and what I was seeking was a clarification. And what I actually said was, as they sound slightly different.
I'm sorry, where are you, David? I can't find where you're...
Page 3 of...
Page 3, the first full paragraph. Mr. Naaman asked that Mr. Fogel clarify comments he made to him privately as they differ from comments he made today. I had changed as they differ to as they sound slightly different. That is what I actually said at the meeting.
This is on the 9th page
And
from Lisa.
that's reflected in the recording.
It is reflected in the recording.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other amendments?
Well, there needs to be a second, I think, and a vote. It's
I second.
We're going to vote on it?
That makes
Do
sense.
you have any other amendments?
I have a bunch of other amendments.
You want to do one at a time, or?
Well,
I'm not going to go through each one, but I have a bunch of other amendments.
I just wondered if we should do it collectively or one at a
Based
time?
on your correction?
Well,
Well-
that depends on whether you want to vote them all down or support them. I mean, you
I would
clearly have
like,
the
I'd
votes.
like to
so-
do them one at a time.
Okay.
Well-
Alex?
I'm in agreement
Let's do
with
one.
this.
Okay.
I recall this,
well, let me suggest this, Mr. President. I'd be prepared to accept Mr. Naaman's changes other than the ones on pages 3 and 4 and 8 and 9. If that's what he wants to do, rather so that we don't have to go through and debate an amendment on each one.
So you are objecting to the changes on page 4?
I'm sorry, the bottom of page 3, that new paragraph.
Page 3.
I'm sorry, which document are we looking at?
The page
Track
3, but
changes version.
Okay, so
Misskip.
so what is it that you're
Where are we, Al?
objecting to?
it's too long. Ms. Keefe expressed
The new
surprise.
paragraph at the bottom of page 3.
So you're proposing to take out the paragraph at the bottom of page 3?
Well, and look, I'm saying this in order to kind of expedite. How many amendments do you have?
I don't know because you guys did this behind my back and I didn't know this was coming up today.
Did what?
did what? Excuse me, I have checked.
Wait a minute, did
I
what?
didn't do,
Whatever.
Well, wait a minute, Mr.
I had no indication that people had a problem with my suggested changes to the minutes. I sent changes to the minutes that we received Friday at 5 o'clock. Those were the only ones that I sent last night. Everything else I sent a long time ago. No one has said anything to me about having concerns about them. That being the case, what you've left me in the position to do right now, since you rejected them wholesale, is to go through and figure out which ones I think are actually important to fix.
What are you suggesting that we did behind your back?
I'm not going there.
Are you gonna retract
I'm suggesting that any concerns that people had about the minutes were not expressed to me directly. About these minutes, the ones that are on the agenda today. None of you expressed any concerns about these minutes to me before today. That being the case, you know, you're entitled to do that. What I'm saying is that when you ask me how many amendments am I going to have, I don't know, because I thought that you guys were going to approve the minutes that I submitted. And now I'm going through and figuring out, since you rejected them wholesale, you didn't amend them, you didn't say, oh, we don't like this paragraph and that paragraph, you rejected them wholesale. So you put me in the position of having to decide which ones I wanted to propose individually. If you would rather, I'm perfectly happy to put mine on the table, and then you guys can take stuff out. That might be easier, because some of what I did was strictly, editing changes.
How much time do you think we should spend on this today?
That's up to you. I was perfectly happy to walk in and approve them and move on.
Well, but in a way, you're kind of holding us hostage because of the vote that was taken. You're saying you're going to make us go through and do an amendment on every edit.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said I wasn't going to do every edit. I said I'm going to do the ones that matter.
Which ones matter?
I don't know, because I'm doing this as I go.
But
Because
you wrote them.
I wrote them, but I didn't commit them to memory.
Mr. President,
ahead, Marianne.
is it in order to table these minutes?
And can we,
Until, we're going to spend an awful lot of time where, I think there are important things to do here in the meeting, and if we're going to go through this point by point, I did not review any of these minutes until late yesterday afternoon and last evening. And so, I'm not in cahoots with anybody on this, except for the fact that as I was reviewing and going through red ink on page after page of these, that's where I came up with the idea to raise this discussion.
I think
I think, we're not going to get anywhere with
All
this
the
at the
minutes?
moment, and I'd
All
like to
the
table all the minutes.
I think that's a good suggestion, and then maybe David,
I
well, we can
second.
review David's by the next month.
Yes.
Well,
Alex?
Mr. President, I think the problem is we're going to get a logjam here now, because we're dealing with 4 sets of minutes. I really think we need to make some decisions today, but Mr. Naaman is suggesting that we're going to spend a ton of time on this afternoon.
Well,
I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that you allow me to put my version before you, and then you make amendments to take things out that you think are too long. Because I went through line by line, and many of you didn't. And so I'm suggesting that it'll be a lot more efficient to do it that way. I sent my comments on this particular set of minutes, the April 18th minutes, on May the 30th. Okay, so there have been 2 whole weeks since that time for people to look at them. I had no inkling until now that people were unhappy with what I submitted on May the 30th.
Well, that's why we discussed them in a group.
That's fine. So we can discuss them as a group. But I thought that the purpose, I went out of my way to send those as early as possible, because Jim was kind enough to change to put off the minutes in order to take them up today, which I appreciated. I will say that the reason that I wanted to put them off until today, which I told Jim when I requested it, involves one of the areas that Alex is objecting to. So, because I thought that the minutes did not accurately reflect what happened relative to the accommodation for the judges who celebrate the religious holiday the weekend before the primary. And I think our judges would want to know what the board actually did. I thought the board did something pretty important. So I think it should be in the minutes. You can move to take it out. I'll vote against it. If you have the votes, fine, take it out. I think that we have judges who would be interested to know that we made the effort to make the accommodation for them, and that the fact that it didn't happen was not because we as a board didn't try to do it. We did.
Can we say that point in a shorter version? Just go to the point.
Feel free to propose something.
Not just go through, we
Feel-
said that,
feel
Mr.
free to-
Shaliff did that, Miss Marianne blinked her eye, I went to the bathroom.
I think you
Feel
have to deal with
free.
the table motion
Feel
right
free
away.
to propose something.
Here's the thing.
And Mr. President, you have to deal with the motion to table right away.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
it looks, I think by next month, now we know where everybody stands. we can come in and expedite this more quickly next month?
Can we vote on the other two sets of minutes, table this, but vote on
Good.
subsequent minutes?
Which
My
one?
understanding was that the motion was to table
All
all
the
four
minutes.
sets
Right.
of minutes.
All right, there's a
I
motion,
understand,
there's a,
but can we, what my point is, can we vote on the other two, the May and the other two sets of
Can,
minutes?
but I think you're going to have the same problem.
yeah, we got the same issue. No, Mary Ann's motion is to table the discussion of the minutes till the next meeting. Is there a second?
Is it okay? The state board doesn't require us to do the minute.
We'll get an email, but if you haven't approved them, you haven't approved them.
Okay.
Is there a
So,
second?
I second.
Is there any discussion on Mary Ann's motion?
Motion to table is not debatable, Mr. President.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Nay?
Aye.
Okay.
I vote no.
Okay, so it passes 3-2.
Did you
Four
vote
to
yes?
two. Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry?
Did you vote yes?
Yes.
So it passed. Okay.
So the minutes are tabled till next month. Okay. Margaret?
Let's see, public comments.
We did that. Elect-
Personnel, staff were released from all of the sections. All the temporary staff was released from the temporary sections. All the staff was released, except for voter services section. We did have an issue with empty voters functionality. So the day that it was supposed to become functional, it went down and it was identified as a Verizon issue. So then we had to wait, the state board and the local board constantly contacted Verizon to get the service back up. We finally got the service back up. We were able to bring staff back, temporary staff, then it went back down, but it's been functional since a week ago Monday. So, and we'll talk about voter registration in a little bit. Budget, Margie, letter for the executive should be included in your packet. And it was emailed to you. The letter that went to the county executive as well as the council members.
This is the letter dated May 27th?
Right, and that actually relates to the FY17 budget, the request for additional scanners. That would not impact the FY16 budget.
Have we got any answer?
No. Okay, FY16 budget, according to the report that was run on June 6th, we still have 12% of our funds left. And I know Nahid reached out to me on Friday, said that there were going to be some specific questions. The spreadsheet that you have in front of you was through May 31st. We have not received the last billing from the State Board of Elections. That normally comes in the first couple of days of July. Sometimes I'm able to get it paid, and sometimes I have to encumber funds so that I can pay it. But I don't anticipate having that much before July 1st. And I'm happy to answer or try to answer any questions that you've got.
That 60530, 60532.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
60530 is the election judge stipend.
Yes.
The reason that is showing no funds spent to date is those checks went out in June, and so because this report is based on the month of May, those funds won't show. They will show on the report next month.
So everyone was paid in June based on the work they did in April, I guess?
Correct.
Okay.
We have a promise, if you will, to the election judges that they are paid within 6 weeks of the election date. And so within April 26th election, we got them paid, 10 days ago, last week? Within the last week to 10 days is when the checks went out.
What's the total that will be in that line?
600, I did not bring that report with me. I believe it was about 20,000 over. So it should be approximately 644. I can certainly send out that amount to the board. I'll make a note to do that.
But it will be in next month's budget spreadsheet.
So Marge, you said we have 12%,
Remaining.
and how much is that?
Hold on, let's
Not
see what
much.
the MOD,
We've
go ahead.
got,
Hold on.
Naheed and I didn't convene a formal budget committee because it was late in the game. But we talked about a couple
605,
of these that
32.
jumped out. Under the rentals and leases, down from that, the 61926, I think we probably know the answer to that, but I was a little surprised to see that our actual payment was larger than what we thought for the leases.
This is
So,
voting
so
system.
my
No.
question is, didn't we know what our leases were?
Remember that the cost for the Wheaton Volunteer
That's
Rescue
what we thought
Squad
it
was
was.
after the fact.
Okay.
So that was not
So that-
included in the original budget allocation.
So that is Wheaton?
Yes.
Okay.
Remember I told you that they're gonna give us the money,
Yeah, that's what,
$13,000?
Mary Ann, your question was about which number?
it was,
61926.
61926.
Okay. And your
I just
question was
wondered
about-
why it actually was costing us more, but
Right.
it's because Wheaton, and the fact that we had to pay more for Wheaton because they had already booked it and,
Right, right.
The other thing I will say while we're on that line item is keeping in mind the budget process. Within the next 2 months, we'll be requesting money and setting the budget for FY18, which is far before when Mrs. Zuzit will start the negotiations with some of the private facilities. And so in that time period, it is possible that there would be some adjustment by the facility because their fiscal period doesn't coincide with the county's fiscal period. So there may be some slight changes, but this change was clearly due to Wheaton Rescue Squad.
okay.
What EJMOD means?
EJMOD means EJ module. That's the software that we use to track the election
The
judges.
software change, okay.
And so this is licensing and software changes and modifications.
The office supplies and equipment in the next one down.
Yeah.
What, now, I wasn't interpreting that as the new equipment.
No,
50,000.
Okay, how did this one get so crazy?
because of everything we needed to go along with the new equipment. I don't know how many thousands and thousands of pens were ordered that we weren't really expecting, so that we had the right pen that would fill out the ballot correctly. And until we had the new system here, of course, we didn't realize all the other things that we would need. And so those all go into that. When you're looking at the other supplies and equipment line, we're over in that because of the rental and purchase of a lift truck for our building. Because now with the renovation of the warehouses to accommodate the new equipment, both the IT side and the operations side, we did not have equipment that would lift things up to those top shelves. And so we had to purchase, we have encumbered funds, we're waiting for it to be delivered, but in the interim we had to rent a lift truck, and so those costs were not anticipated.
Okay. Printing, central duplicating services.
That is something that we had requested additional money for. As you will recall, everything had to be, all of our signage, the election judge manuals, everything that goes through the print shop is captured under that line item. And we just simply were not given enough funding for that. The manuals had to be printed, the signage had to be done. The printing does not include the sample ballot, that's a separate line item. This is simply anything that we send here through the print
Now,
shop.
doesn't the state, I thought the state did the manuals. These are the manuals for the judges, to train the judges. I thought the state did those.
They create
They create them, but they don't.
They don't print them.
And then we have to print it
Okay.
in the number that we
They're
need.
unfunded mandates.
Yes.
Yeah.
They put it in the brown back.
And we print them as needed. So like Leslie and her team will know how many classes are coming up, and so they'll ask the print shop to send the number that they need for those classes, so that we don't end up with a huge stack of judge manuals at the end of the election that, never went out to anybody. So they print them on an as-needed basis to try to minimize some of the costs.
Speaking of the sample ballots, on the next page at the top,
Yes.
I see that one came in under, but if you recall, I was very disappointed that we did not have color ballots like we had in the past, with the Democratic sample ballot being blue and the Republican sample ballot being pink, and I was told it was a matter of cost.
No, it was a matter of the state board abolished color for the sample ballots.
That was not our decision, that was a decision.
I didn't know that other jurisdictions even did color sample ballots. They all, it's always been done, it
Yeah,
wasn't just
and there
us?
was the sample ballot, and then in the old days, with the old-fashioned ballot, the header had either, in the header, top portion of the ballot, it had a yellow hue, a pink hue, or a blue hue.
Yes.
And Democrats did not have any color. Democrats, but the header was just white.
But we changed it to blue.
But in the sample ballot, you changed it to blue.
Yes.
You did not, it was not changed on the official ballot, because that was not permitted.
Okay.
We're printing our own ballot. Can we
But I'm
add
talking about
anything
the-
to
We're
it?
not printing our own ballot.
But-
We print our sample
I'm,
ballot.
but I'm
I'm
talking
also
about the
talking
sample ballot.
Can't we add to that? I mean, could we add color to it?
No, the state board has said that, and well, first of all, for the November election, they've never allowed color. But we certainly can request permission to print in color. I'm curious, I'd like Allison to weigh in as to how that's gonna impact cost. Because these ballots don't go out by Democrat, Republican, or nonpartisan.
Yeah, we don't need
They're-
color for the general. I wouldn't-
No, I mean, it really, it is the primary when people are looking for, you know, for those colors or whatnot.
The cost, I don't recall the precise figure of the cost on that spray. It's not a significant cost, as I recall. I believe the reason why we budgeted so much more than we spent for the sample ballot was because we had originally thought we were going to need to do the screenshots for the
Right.
touch screens throughout, which would have been a much larger publication. We came in on actually what we have under our contract for the sample ballot. We would have needed to do a contract amendment to go above that amount. We did not end up needing to do that since we did not end up adding the screens for the early voting screenshots.
From the ballot marking device.
David, did you say?
Yes, I was just going to say that I think that color has a lot to be said for it in the general election as well as the primary. I think it makes it much more likely that people can find the sample ballot in a pile of paper that is otherwise all roughly the same color. And I think it's in our interest for the general election for people to find their sample ballots and look at them before they go to vote, so that they don't spend all their time while they're actually voting taking up, creating lines and taking more time.
Yeah, no,
Were we given any explanation for why the state doesn't want it?
yeah, I mean, am I hearing correctly that they actually said you can no longer print your sample ballots in color?
They said the practice of using a blue header sheet or a blue sheet, pink sheet, and yellow sheet to distinguish the three colors by political party could no longer be utilized
For the sample ballots?
for the sample ballot. Now, if we want to go with color, then we need to talk to the printer and come up with, what it is that you have in mind. I mean, are you talking about using, just printing this on a blue piece of paper, the header, or a yellow piece of paper? Because obviously we want, this is going to be a postal issue if you go with a different color. We're going to have, and then I would
Well,
have.
I wasn't thinking of different paper at all. I was thinking of the hue
the
that
spray that we
used to
did
be on
before.
it, which I don't think is a tremendous cost.
But
but-
we're not sending anything out by political party. Everybody gets the same ballot this next
For the
go
general.
around, for the general election.
Right,
Have
and-
sample
and-
ballots
and-
ever been printed in color?
Not,
No.
the only thing that was in color was
The
the
cover
cover
page.
sheet.
Oh.
Yeah.
And in past elections?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and the state abolished that.
You may not realize it, but you used to get a sample ballot that was pink.
But the one you're talking is for primary mayor.
Primary.
Yes.
The Republican
No.
cells were pink,
It was
the
pink.
Democratic
Spray
cells were
pink.
blue,
Mhm.
and the unaffiliated were yellow.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
do you have
spray across the page that was on the outside.
And prior to the board, Mary Ann's board, the Democrats just received white. The Republican was pink spray, and the non-affiliate was yellow. And the state directed us that we were to no longer utilize
There they
party
are.
white
Look,
color.
see
Which
how,
corresponded to the
see how
color-
great that is? Look how it
the
stands
color
out.
Oh, yeah,
block
man,
that was on
yeah.
the ballots
I want to
themselves.
be with the political party that has the brighter colors here.
Well, you got the.
Well, we got the pink.
But
Yeah,
that
I
was-
guess I never.
If you'd
That
like it to be red, that's certainly possible.
But that was only for the primary. For
Yeah.
the general election.
Yes,
General
it
was
goes
always
out.
black and white.
Just straight black and white.
I wonder why they gave a Republican pink, they're girlish.
I think it,
I think it's as close as we could get to red and blue. I mean, it was in keeping with the.
but it is easier to find that in a pile of paper than it is something that's just plain.
Jessica, what is it?
You have to be very careful now though with postal regulations. Now don't allow red tones at all, or purples, because of the machine they use to read postal barcodes. They can't read over red. So if it's any surface that's going to be a mailing surface, then you do have to go through postal approval for the regional
There you
rep
go.
in order to do that.
Well,
We could certainly pick a color that's neither red nor blue,
Yeah.
if we wanted to pick a nonpartisan color.
You don't like pink?
well, I guess in light of my concern and this vis-a-vis the primary, I'd like to put it on the agenda to discuss with the state and see if we couldn't, since we pay for these ourselves, if we couldn't go back to doing this.
Next primary.
But for the primary, Mary Ann?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's the next primary. Yeah.
But, and so we can't make this,
Is there a reason you'd want
we
to?
can't put a color on here to,
Is
up
there
the
a
front.
reason you don't want
or
to do it for the general in
the
some kind of...
flags,
Well,
top
I
and the bottom,
wonder.
everything in
I
color,
don't know.
to make people notice it more when they get it.
We can certainly ask Allison to meet with the printer and find out what we can do.
Just, I don't know,
That would be more of an expensive process than just the spraying of the color on the entire.
okay,
If you were
just,
trying
I
to,
was just
Because
hoping that
then
maybe we
then
could
you've
make
got a
people notice it
multiple-
more when they got it.
Whatever
Yeah.
colors you designate, the spray is, the cost for that is included in our current contract with our current vendor.
It is
Like, get
inclu-
color on
includes
this.
spray.
but coloring the flags themselves is not a spray.
Right.
That would require
So
it
you're
to
talking
then
about
become a
if we
color.
If we get a color, if we color it, okay, we can do that.
What about the issue in terms of the general election with having some sort of tone on
That's what we
this?
just were talking about.
Oh, you were,
That's in
okay.
the contract.
It's in the
That's what
contract.
Allison
We
just
can
said.
certainly, if you want to designate a color, we can spray them all or whatever that color is.
Well, you know, just so it doesn't get, because it does get lost in with newspapers and everything, you know, you can see.
We gotta get permission, right, from the state?
So we have to get permission from both the state and the post office. If you choose a color, you just have to say, you know, what color it's gonna be so we can get it past the post office. Because to me, the most important thing is that it's delivered.
And you're saying the post office said no purple?
Well, yeah,
Purple
it's my
or
own
red.
jurisdiction, we do color postcards every election, we change the colors, and it was a fight. And you have to go through and have it actually sent to a postal inspector, they run it through.
Well, does this stand out enough?
No.
Enough, it really doesn't.
The machine's called Merlin.
Political
And it
tests
uses
show
a red
that
line.
yellow paper shows the best that people get it.
Yellow.
Even if it's just that kind of dull yellow?
Well, I've
Yeah.
said everything I'm gonna say about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
You like yellow, huh?
The yellow paper is the best one to make
It's
people
bright and
notice
sunny.
when
Yes.
they get it.
The spray was only on the back, not on the front. I will clarify with our vendor one way or the other, whether, because the spray, I believe, is applied by the same, I'm not entirely clear if the spray is applied in such a manner where they can only basically apply it on the same section where they apply the mailing label information, or whether they can do it on both the front and back. I will clarify that one way or another.
All right.
Yeah, both would obviously be ideal.
Okay, so you'll look into that.
Yes.
Okay, back to the budget.
Okay then. Sure.
Thought I was off
Thank
the
you,
hook.
Marjorie.
Do you have any others,
No,
any other questions?
no, that's it.
I-
We're okay.
Under advertising, one of our favorites down
Not all
there.
in yet.
The second one, marketing sales, was that not our money for outreach for, that was the money for the ads and the,
Yes.
we didn't spend it all?
We did spend it all, when there was a very small amount that was not spent. Again, this reflects monies that hit the general ledger through the end of May. There was a payment made at the very beginning of June that was late in receipt, and so that one should bring us up to almost what it was. There was approximately $1,000 and that we will not spend in that. And that was due to, if you recall, when we budgeted and spoke with the Washington Post, they were going to provide a topper for the magazine that they hand out at the metro stations. And then they discontinued doing that prior to when we were ready to move. So they gave us an extra ad in the Express, in the Thursday edition. I'm blanking out on that right now, but they gave us an extra ad in that, but that was less than what the cost would have been for the topper. So there was a slight loss, but we did go, and I have been checking with the various companies to make sure they've got their invoices in time.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
David?
thank you.
It appears that we spent a lot less in the communication services categories. I wonder if there's any,
Where are we, Dave? What?
it is
6360.
63604, 63624, 63626, and 63634.
Okay. So 63604 are the cellular phone line charges. Those are for the cell phones that go out to the polling places. We have received one bill because they are activated over a 2-month period of time. There will be one more bill coming in, so you'll see that number go up a little bit. It was budgeted based on previous expenditure, and so we might be slightly under on that, but it won't be a huge amount under. 63624 communication circuits. I am still attempting, this is one that if you all recall, I keep trying to get clarification on exactly what they're charging on this. I did receive some information. I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. I will send some information out to you all about that particular line item and what is charged to that and what I would expect for the rest of the fiscal year. I will get that out to you all. In terms of 63626, the communication modems, that is something that is charged to us from SBE. That's the modem line for the connection to MD voters, the backup for that. And so that is simply whatever they bill us for. And again, it was budgeted based on previous billings.
And you haven't been billed yet?
And I have one final bill coming in on that. Unlikely that it's going to take it. I mean, if we're at 582 now, it's unlikely that we're going to take it to the full 4870, but I won't know until I get that bill, unfortunately. And then your final question, 63634. Those are the phone lines that need to be dropped in at the polling places. I'm going to kind of look to Chris for confirmation, but pretty much what determines how much we spend there is how many new polling places we have. Where we would need to drop the polling place lines, and I don't think we had a significant number of new places this year that we had to. But we never know, and again, because we have to budget so far out, we kind of go with a consistent amount in that line item to cover us if there's a need.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And then one other question, 61924, which is the MD voters rental,
Yes.
which seems to be substantially lower than expected. Does that mean we haven't gotten a bill yet?
Correct. That'll be part of the fourth billing from the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Margie.
You're welcome. And just want to remind everybody that tomorrow afternoon, the supplemental appropriation does go before the county council. We're at 1:30 p.m. I don't know how accurate, whether they're going to go in the exact order that is on the website. Right now, we're showing as number 5, but, you know.
We're number 5?
That doesn't,
Right.
I don't know as though that means we really are number 5. So just wanted to remind you that is,
And that's just the council people who discussed it.
Yes.
Is it-
I'll be the first
There will
one.
be no discussion.
Right.
It's a vote.
It's just
straight
the
up,
vote.
straight
It's just
down.
a vote.
Okay.
It's a vote? I thought it was a public hearing.
Yeah, yes, but there's going to be action taken immediately following because this has to be done immediately because we're at the end of the fiscal year. So,
Which floor?
When will we know our position? In the morning or?
my understanding is we'll know before we leave there. Yes.
No. I mean, our where we are on the agenda.
Oh, probably not till we get there. I mean, in
Oh.
all reality, I would just plan on being there as close to 1:30 as you can. I mean, these are all, I can try, you know what, I'll try to get clarification in the morning and send something out. Our council person's not going to be
Yes.
available by the time I finish here, but
Yeah.
I will get that.
Information for floor. What floor? Third?
What floor?
Floor.
Oh, what
Floor.
floor? I apologize. Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to say the 5th floor. No.
Fifth.
No. I'm going to say, I'll check and call you back is what I'm going to say.
That
How
sounds
about
wise.
that?
Jessica, will you go onto the county council website?
It's probably the 3rd floor, but
The
it
main
does
hearing
not
room,
say on
yeah.
here.
The auditorium?
I'm betting
Can
it's
you
the
go
7th.
right now?
I can look it right now.
And just to and Allison and I will be in Annapolis at 10 also for Senator Kagan's hearing.
Okay. Is there
If
anything
any-
else?
Are you testifying in Annapolis?
I don't know, briefly. It's
Well, you may-
basically
you may ask
Baltimore
questions.
City, but Senator Kagan's invited me numerous times.
Okay. Is there anything else with regards
Thank
to the
you
budget?
No, thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Okay, voter registration. Staff is processing the backlog. The voter registration books closed on April 6th and remain closed until May 31st because of all of the issues in the city of Baltimore. Jessica, can you provide us an update as to what we're looking at in terms of a backlog?
So right now, electronically, we have about between 20 and 25,000 electronic records that have been held over since the registration closed. In addition to that, we have received about 5,000 paper registration forms during the period that's been closed. We just got 1,000 of those came Friday from the state that they have received in the period that registration has also been closed. And then we received 8,800 transactions through ERIC, which is the cross-match to other state voter registration systems. And then we're taking out about, we're still pretty slow, taking about 300 to 500 additional registrations electronically are coming a day.
A day?
But we will pick up
500.
That's a lot.
tremendously between now and, but we are, so we're working through the backlog. Right now, priority is focusing on getting those ERIC cross matches taken care of, because that's one of the ways that we work through our voter registration rolls to make sure that they stay cleaned up with people who move out of state, and also within the state of Maryland. Secondary to that, we had a 90-day hold before every election that we cannot send confirmations to voters that we've received notification they've moved. So that 90-day hold was released. We've sent out about 8,000 confirmation cards to voters. We will generate additional ones because of the ERIC, and also as we work through our backlog. We have a deadline coming up, which will be August 10th, before the next 90-day hold. And that's a process where voters become inactive in their 2 federal cycles. So we'll be working towards that priority and then working through our backlog while we're doing that.
Okay, thank you. All right, State Board of Elections, basically, state certification of election occurred on May 31st. State Board required the city of Baltimore to research and recertify the election, which delayed the certification and opening. of empty voters for the registration processing. Lisa Jones and Jessica White did go up and help the city of Baltimore go through these 1,700 provisionals to help them get to certification and to see what kind of mistakes were possibly happening. And it was a good educational tool for all of us and the feedback that we received from the staff. The lessons learned survey is in the first steps by the state board, that they are in development, and they plan to have a lessons learned meeting with the election directors in July related to the upcoming, in preparation for the upcoming election.
Can you tell us anything about what, I mean, I know they had a tremendous number of provisional ballots that got scanned.
The city of Baltimore?
Yes, yes. I mean, have they come up with exactly what were their problems or what caused it? And
I think right. I don't know. The short answer is I don't have a full a comprehensive answer. I think they're trying to piece it back together. Their goal was to get to certification, and as I understand it, there are 2 federal lawsuits pending that involve the state board and the city of, by, as I understand it, interested voters in the city of Baltimore. And so I don't know how much information is going to be forthcoming.
Is the warehouse up there? Did any of you all see the warehouse?
Oh yeah, Jessica.
I heard from totally, interested parties, but totally nobody in Montgomery County, that the warehouse was a bit of,
rough.
I think the nightmare was the word used.
So by the time I went there the following week, they had devised a system and reorganized the information so that it was more readily able to be filtered and sorted through to bring together all the information.
Well done.
Very diplomatic.
Okay. And then finally, based on not only what happened in the city of Baltimore, but all across the state with this transition of provisional voting and paper ballots, Linda Lamone has requested that I chair a committee with 6 other election directors to review the provisional voting procedures to improve the outcomes of the election judges. There were precincts that, and scattering even in our county, where for whatever reason the provisional ballot went, instead of into the envelope, it went into the scanner. We had at least 34 that I'm aware of, and as we continue to go through our materials, we find onesies and twosies here or there. We believe that by sitting down, talking to the election directors that are involved, are being asked to talk to their chief judges and their provisional judges. One of the issues that did come, that was brought to my attention about the city of Baltimore versus the rest of the state, is while we have a provisional voting table with a judge that's assigned to that location, with the chief as supposedly the backup, Baltimore City was issuing everything from the main table. So that increased the probability that there was going to be an error created. So obviously that's something that the rest, I don't know who made that decision, and I'm certainly not, I'm going to make any judgments there, but I think it's really critical. And one of the things that your input that you sent to us with regards to information, some of you sent back information about how the polling place setup was supposed to go, or recommendations, like Gracie said, I want you to mark the drawer a different way. But we're taking all of that information, plus what the chief judges have been sending back to us, And that's one of the things that we are definitely looking at, is making sure that on the provisional side is that provisional voters go this direction and standard voters go this direction. And we're adding color, such as an orange tablecloth. I told Margie order 600 of them, so that, you know, the check-in judges can say very clearly, go to the table that has the provisional, that's orange colored, and get your provisional ballot there. We're going to have, one of the things that we walked away with is that orange privacy folder. Well, so that no one, if somebody sees the color orange, they know immediately they're in the wrong spot if they get to the scanner. So those are some of the things that we've talked about. I'm really interested in what my peers are saying and what their chief judges are saying, and their provisional judges are saying. But obviously, just having a separate table for provisional voting is going to prevent a lot of problems.
And a separate place for them to go. What other counties are, what are the other 6 counties?
Well, it's a combination of little counties and large counties. Let me see, Anne Arundel County is one of the counties. Harford County, which is north of Dale Livingston. Tracy Dickerson, is she Caroline? Carroll County. Drawing a blank.
Howard?
No, I don't think anybody's.
Aren't you chairperson of that?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Well, that's
I don't get to just select my member. I have,
Tracy's from Charles County.
Charles County. It has to a certain extent, yes, I am the chair.
Well, congratulations.
But the other part of it is that it also has to represent the state of Maryland. So we have to have small county, because everyone had this problem, not just the big metropolitan areas. Small counties had the problem, large counties had the problem. So it's a cross section.
From our purposes, you think it's going to take a lot of time away from?
No, I already told the state that it's going to be wrapped up by August, because if we don't have these recommendations wrapped, it has to be part of one of our complaints as staff with the state board, is that this information, these instructions need to be given to us on a timely basis. And so it has to be wrapped up by mid-August. The state board can draft, take our recommendations and say yay or nay. But we're going to have it wrapped up by the middle of August so that the state board can do what they want to do. The election directors can take away what they need to make it work in their county. I have no idea what the actual state board will do with the recommendations. But obviously everyone has an interest in making sure that the provisional voting operates the way it's supposed to, and those individuals that are supposed to be able to vote, but they follow the correct process, and those individuals that aren't qualified to vote, their ballots aren't scanned.
Are you only looking into the issue of provisional voting?
That's what she said.
You all haven't met yet?
No, we're not meeting until
So
next week.
not dealing with issues of lines or that
Yeah.
could exist elsewhere, and dare I say amount of equipment.
No, since you brought up equipment, they did send an email out last week, Friday, informing the local boards that if you want more equipment for other reasons than you have an additional early voting center, York County will be responsible for the costs associated with the additional equipment. And we need to start the procurement process quickly.
Good luck.
So please send an email to Nikki by Friday, June 17th. So I sent her a copy of the letter that we sent to the county executive saying we are interested in more equipment.
So it sounds like they're asking you to help them fix the process in other jurisdictions, but they're not interested in assisting us in fixing the problem here. I mean, or at least not with any money.
Right.
Actually, you were not the only confused. The judges were
I mean-
confused. Like same day registration, and they send day one, and then they to send different forms?
I think that's going to be covered in the state's plan for lessons learned, because you are correct. And they did send out a survey, or either they're sending it out today or they're sending it out tomorrow morning, to identify what are the issues that need to be discussed. And yes, everybody in this room that had anything to do with same-day voter registration agrees that that's an important issue, and that the data that, for purposes of training, needs to be, we need to receive earlier. The poll book data needs to be received earlier. There are numerous issues. Fortunately, the election judge manual is done, so we don't have to sit around and wait for that. But obviously, any of these tinkering things that we're going to do to ensure that the process works more smoothly in the fall has to be done sooner than later. So yes, and I plan on, in my capacity as the chairman for just this provisional piece, I'm not going to be dragging people out of.
This charge is a little bit confusing too. The same day judge gave me that, the gentleman was very knowledgeable.
Yeah, it is a
It's a
serious
little
charge.
bit confusing.
Good
Say if you
Lord.
don't have driver license, can't do driver
Well, that's a-
license or something. Very,
Yeah,
Pretty confusing.
I-
Look at it, yes.
But those things those are being identified by the election directors. That information is being fed to the state board. And, I mean, there's only a finite amount of time that we have. We have approximately 45 to 60 days to make whatever changes we need to make, and they have to be implemented, because quite honestly, we are going to be bringing people back first part of August to get them ramped up for training, so that we can begin training, I believe, the same week school comes back into session. So whenever school, I think it's August
August, yeah.
24th or something like that. So we'll be training starting in the latter part of August.
The election judge manuals, do we reprint those again for the general, or?
No, we will not. At this time, we do not plan to reprint them.
People return theirs from?
They're supposed to keep them. The only people that would receive new ones would be the individuals that are brand new. I mean, and quite honestly, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Leslie and how we want to proceed on going forward. The chief judges must have the election judge manual. Absolutely have to have it. There's a considerable discussion, and that's probably going to be something that's going to be discussed as the election directors. Do all of these VOP judges, do they really need all of that material? There's some of it on the front end that they need. They definitely need to be coached and advised and instructed on how to handle ADA requirements, cultural competencies. We need to cover the basics in terms of you have to open at 7 a.m. on time, payroll information, that type of material, and the closing process. All of the election judges need to know about the closing process. But a lot of the, deadly detail that's in those 200 or so pages, I mean,
Well, that,
formidable.
Senator Kagan raised that among her issues, and I thought it was a good suggestion that, does everybody really need this, tremendous volume? You did speak to the fact that, people often get moved around or, whatnot, and so it's good to have everybody cognizant of the whole. But I just wonder if there, as you're talking, you're obviously giving some thought to that.
I mean, one of the things, Allison attended a meeting with the EAP that and I think I mentioned this to Jim. We were trying to find, because election judges not showing up is not a new thing. But she was talking to the director of elections in Los Angeles County, and what was it, 21% of the election judges do not show up on election day.
21%?
And for us, the no-show rate is 5%. And then when
Was that in this particular election?
this last election, and then when I started drilling down to, why are there so many chief judges missing? I was talking to the recruiters before we let them go, and they were saying that some of the VOP judges that knew that were knowledgeable did not want to come back for another training episode. They said, yeah, I know I'm going to be assigned as a chief, but I'm not coming in for any more training. You're just going to have to assign. When I show up, I understand I'm going to get bumped up. I'm going to get a field appointment. And they just refused to come in to be any further training. And so the discussion that Allison and I and Leslie were having is, are we better off knowing that we're going to have judges show up with only a 5% no-show rate, or do we try to force them to come in and then have a 20%? I don't know what the answer is.
I don't either, but I'll tell you this, I've had a dozen people tell me that they would sign up, they didn't have to come for all the training. They don't mind going somewhere near home, didn't mind doing some on a computer, but at least a dozen say that they're not about to come.
But we do have part-time positions.
Well,
and we have training all across the county. We have training in White Oak, we have training at Silver Spring Civic Center, we have training at the Potomac Community Center. We won't be having it there because now that's an early voting site, but we have it at Claire Barton. I mean, I understand that driving to Gaithersburg feels like it's dry, but there's going to be an outlet mall.
everybody
You go
everybody
up
in
the road.
Chevy Chase thinks this county stops at White Oak.
Well, all I can say is, if you want
does
to
in that
have
direction.
in-person voting, you've got to have election judges. And if you don't want in-person voting, then there's an option. It's early voting or by mail.
Did the people who said that they don't want further training explain why?
They just don't want to spend the time to come and do extra training.
Right, but did they say that, or because obviously there
No.
could be some people who don't want the training because they think they know everything they need to know, or they
No,
you know.
I did not drill down.
So we don't know whether it's a commentary on what they think of the training, whether the training is at a different level for newcomers versus veterans.
Well, next month we do have election judge training. Election judge and recruiting will be your monthly report from the primary election. So that's pretty much it. So I have nothing further to add with the State Board of Elections. Did you want to add anything? I think, Mary Ann, you went to a State Board meeting, the May one.
Yeah, it's so long ago now. Of course, it amidst all the photographers and news networks, whatever, they were dealing with Baltimore. And I guess what was most startling about that was when they handed out the list of precincts and what issues there were. There wasn't a precinct, I don't think, that didn't have some sort of an issue regarding ballots. So yeah, they were pretty much saying that that was ongoing and they were not able to certify, and as a result weren't able to open up registration again, etc. I took the occasion, since the chair called on me, I didn't ask to speak, but I gave a plea for our money that we're looking for the additional machines. And there was a little bit of back and forth with the board members as to, what we had in did we have lines in any places, what was the issue, etc. So, I said we were, going to be formally outreaching both within the state and the county on it.
Okay.
And is there anything else?
That covers it.
All right. That's it for me.
Kevin?
I do not have anything. We had initially talked about the bylaws possibly being a topic of discussion. I reached out to David for him to send me the definition. Thank you very much for doing so. But after looking at it and thinking about it, I talked to Jim, and I think it's an issue that can be tabled for now.
Yeah.
Are there going to be, is Vickers going to have a?
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be a petition that's going to come in. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I saw him the other day.
Deadline's not till August.
That's not due till August?
He told me
aware of any
recently.
others?
Yeah.
The only other one was the gentleman who I told you about that requested an advance determination regarding a charter amendment regarding, currently the charter requires you need 9 votes for the county council to set, I guess, a tax rate that would generate more revenue than the budget. And he wanted to have a charter amendment to reduce that to 7. And he requested an advance determination. He got an advance determination that his summary was not fair and accurate. He was the gentleman who wanted to come in last month to speak to the board, but I haven't heard anything further from him.
Yeah, the Ficker petition, from what I've heard recently, they have about 12,000 signatures so far. That's coming.
How many do they need?
10.
10,000.
It's on term limits. A term limit petition.
For state legislators?
No, it's for the
Council.
county executive and the
County
county
executive.
council. I think it's,
I thought it was for the council.
it is, and the county
council.
executive.
County
It's
council
3
executive.
terms.
Everybody.
But it also applies to the existing county council, which is about 5 or 6 of them, I think, or 4 or 5 of them.
Okay. That's
That's
it
it.
then. Old business, we had a problem with the phones the night before the election on April 25th, in which I ended up having to call the Department of Telecommunications leadership as well as the IT leadership. We finally got a report, and Janet, do you want to talk about what Max Stuckey and the other gentleman?
We got a response from Matt Stuckey, and he's the Chief Enterprise Telecommunications personnel, and he said that one of the problems were we didn't plan for pre-testing of the system, I think on their end. It was not coordinated. And also the standby DTS support personnel, they had issues connecting to our remote site, and so that impaired their ability to fix the issue. So for the 2006, for the general, what they're going to do is they're going to have pre-programming of all our call center telephones, and they're going to do it in a test environment at their location. And then we're going to jointly test it at the test location, and then they're going to come here and we're going to test the whole room again. And that's going to be 3 weeks prior to the election. And then every week until the election, we'll do another test in that room. Every week they're going to test to make sure it's still working. And then we're going to train the callers, the takers, us staff here that's in there taking the calls on how to log in. Right now, Jerry's the only one that knows how to log everybody in. So he comes around and does it for everybody. But they're going to finally give us written instructions on how to log in the phones. And then we're going to have a checklist that we have to sign off on to make sure everything's working before we implement the call center. And we're going to have 1 DTS person, maybe 2, over here that will be assigned election day to make sure the phones are working. And they're going to stay here the whole day.
And the night before?
Yeah, that day. Starting with Monday night through election.
So what happens is that on election day, so the day before the election, the call center is the call center for the 777 vote line, 240-777 vote. Then at 5 o'clock, it flips and becomes the call center for the chief judges to call in to notify us immediately that they're having problems in the precinct. So, and that's where the problem started, is when it flipped. And actually, it was started when people started calling in, and they kept running into that, they could not get past this.
Leave a message.
And leave a message.
That's where I was. They kept getting.
So that's good news. The thing is that we're going to have to test around our operations, which is going to be running 8 to 8 So 3 weeks before the testimony would be great, but during early voting, we're gonna have to test outside of our regular operating hours. Because we'll run it 8 to 8 during early voting. All right, primary election. We have several reports, communication, information, operations, and we'll start with Margie Ward, communications.
Okay.
Well, on old business, we want to do the letters?
Oh, old business? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want, okay, sure, I'm sorry, I did not.
Yes.
I thought, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, yes, old business, I see it.
Raskin?
The review law process.
yeah, right. Mary, yeah.
Raskin.
On the old business, I asked Margaret to add this.
I thought it was something that's okay.
You know, we've gotten a lot of, they send it to me, but it's to the board, you know, letters from legislators and Democratic Central Committee. And it seems that my approach is not as working as well as Mary Ann's approach to letters. You know, we send out the letters for everybody to review, but the reviews haven't been coming back timely. Like Senator Raskin's letter to me, to the board, it's like over a month old, and we haven't responded. So I'd like to get that out tonight. And the letter to the state, to the governor, and to the legislature, we haven't gotten all the responses back. I was talking to Mary Ann, and I asked her when she got a letter, what was her process? And what was your process when you got a letter?
Well, generally speaking, the process started at the board meeting, and, you know, there would be discussion on a particular issue or something, and it was decided that we wanted to send a letter, you know, like a letter to the county executive for more money or whatever. And we would then ask and assign Kevin to draft a letter. And he would do that. He would send it to me. I reviewed it. Made changes if I felt appropriate, or talked to him if there were questions, and then it went out. I mean, from there, once we were clear on it, and a copy was then sent to each of the board members that, you know, this is the letter that we did.
After the fact.
Yes.
The final letter, the final letter that went out. Yes.
Because I've been sending it to everybody for review
That
and
was
comment.
the same that before Mary Ann. When Sam was president and then Jerry was.
Yeah, that was my understanding. I didn't make it up. Yeah, I mean that was how it had always functioned.
I mean, I like the board input, but it's been delaying things. Anybody have any thoughts on this? I mean, I don't
I
want to
would
cut any.
suggest you, unless it's a very controversial matter, I would suggest you take care of it and give us a copy.
Okay, that being said, can I ask a question here? Because I did send out the letter from Mr. Banoff and from one of our chief judge. I included a draft response in your packet. We can send it to you electronically. I would like very much to be able to get a response. I'd like to get this thing out by Wednesday.
Which letter is that, Margaret?
This is the
To Mr. Banoff,
for
it's
the
Democratic Central Committee?
Montgomery County Central Committee,
Yeah, I wanna get-
Democratic Central Committee.
Okay, let's finish this Raskin thing.
And then,
So if anybody has any
Was
comments?
this sent to us electronically?
No, I got a letter.
I just finished it.
Oh, okay. It's in our.
It's in your
here.
packet.
But it's
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
looking for
Democratic
it.
Central Committee, so if we can
It's
get
got
comments.
draft written all over the.
Can we get,
like
when do you
this.
need comments by? Wednesday?
I want it finalized to send out by Friday. Wednesday by 5 o'clock.
Fine.
So can we get responses by Wednesday?
That's kind of soon for those of us who have other obligations, which is all of us.
Margaret, is this your draft?
Allison and I and Kevin have
No,
drafted.
yeah.
I did the first draft. Allison edited it. Then we sent it to Kevin for his final edits. And then I sent it to,
Okay. So I'd like to clean up.
okay.
The Senate, the letter from Senator Raskin and the 3 delegates is on the verge of going out, but Alex hadn't seen it, and he had some comments, Alex, so I wanted to hold sending that out until
Well, look, and I don't want to delay this.
No, I mean,
Any
we just,
longer.
you had a couple of comments, and I
Yeah,
wanted
I
David.
think that, well, two things. I think there are like 3 points in here where David has suggested that we add something that would invite Senator Raskin to give other suggestions. I don't know that we need to ask him 3 times to do that. Maybe once would be enough. That's not as important as the other issue about whether we should be committing Margaret to an in-person briefing. I think that we ought to leave it a little more open. If he wants that, then we could, consider doing that. But I don't know that I want to put her on record as agreeing to do that, because it might set a precedent that in the future, every time a legislator has a question about a polling place change, Margaret's got to go to and meet with the legislator. Now, there may be times when that's appropriate, but I don't know that it's always appropriate. So I don't know that we should be that specific about it. This is, I guess,
Don't you generally close a letter like this with just a general, please, if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us,
Right.
whatever.
Because the
Okay.
way Kevin prepared, we answered their question. So we shouldn't add anything. If they want more, they can come back to us and say, hey,
I
they
mean, we
want
gave
more.
him
They want-
what he wanted, which was the
Yeah.
reasons why the change was made, I think. So,
So you're talking about on page 2,
under
It's just in our
point
packet.
1,
point 1,
No.
and that's the next big paragraph,
yeah,
where you
Yeah.
say, if you would like more specifics.
right, the chain, or I guess it includes the text that's bracketed by David's comment 3. I wouldn't, I don't know that we don't necessarily also have to say we respectfully request that you contact us. If you would like more specifics, let us know, and we will respond as soon as we can, or something like that.
Dave?
And also this one.
Wait, what, you want to finish? You had some others.
Well, yeah, and my first point was that I think we ought to just decide where we want to invite him to give us other suggestions. I don't think we need to say it 3 times. I think once is enough. Probably at the end of the letter
Somewhere, conduct, somewhere, conduct.
would be the best place to have it. Is to if you have any other suggestions for how to improve the notification process, we'd be happy to consider. So you could just stick with the one that's at the end of the penultimate paragraph on page 4. That's my opinion.
Well, this is, kind of an example of, I think the issue you were raising, or when you first asked me the question today. How do you write these things by committee? I mean, this is very straightforward.
Yeah,
We decided we wanted to respond to this. We have a response. It's known how this came about, why the change, and Kevin, with his legal expertise and position here, drafts it, and if you're happy with it, it goes.
Yeah, I mean,
Amen.
Mary Ann, let me say, I'm happy with the letter as it was originally drafted.
I saw it when it came around to everybody. I didn't have any questions.
Dave?
I'll just point out that we discussed this letter at our previous meeting, and at that time, I did suggest that we should do a briefing either by phone call or in person. There was not the groundswell of opposition that there is today. I think that in this particular instance, I don't think it's necessarily a precedent for every inquiry. We've gotten lots of inquiries from elected officials that we have not responded to by offering briefings. In fact, I'm not sure we've ever offered a briefing. But in this particular instance, where a large portion of our decision was based on information that was provided by our staff and photographs that were provided by our staff, and photographs that we wouldn't necessarily want to send by email or by U.S. mail. I think that there's a lot to be said for offering an in-person briefing. His incoming letter says something to the effect of, that he would be happy to talk with us by phone or in person. So I don't remember his exact words, but so if look, if you all don't want my comments, don't send me the letters, and that's that's the way it will be. When we had this meeting last time, Jim, you in particular was asking, what do I think would help to satisfy these legislators that that we made the right decision, and you asked me to participate if we did have a briefing, and I told you I would, along with you and Margaret. I still think that that would be the most likely way to get them to accept the decision that was made. But if you all would rather not do that, I mean, I worked in congressional relations for a good portion of my career. Usually the goal of such letters is not to get a second letter back. And I think that if we don't provide more detail about this particular decision, that there's a good possibility that we'll get another letter back.
I mean, I'm signing these letters on behalf of the members of the board, so, I don't want to, I mean, to me, the input is fine, it's just the timeliness of it, and it's on an important
What's the
letter.
issue with the photographs?
Well, I'm not going to discuss it here.
Why not?
Because we had this discussion last month and we had it before. There's a concern about harming the reputation of the facility that we're talking about. You asked the same question previously, and Margaret indicated that it was best not to have that discussion at this table. I'm not going to be the one who departs from that. I'd be happy to have that conversation with you outside of this meeting.
Well, all right, fair enough. But I mean, I think if the photographs are something that we think the senator should see, then maybe sending them to him is not necessarily the same as sort of making them public. But
I wasn't suggesting sending them to him, because sending them to him could make them public. I was suggesting showing them to him, which, like I said, in the world of legislative relations, that's the kind of thing that's done all the time on sensitive subjects, is that you show, because in reality they want to know, what was the reason for this decision? And I think that had a lot to do with, with the reason for this decision.
You don't think the letter was sufficient?
I don't. I don't. I think that, since you asked me, I think that mail that's marked official mail, I get junk mail that's marked official mail. I don't think that necessarily gets people's attention. I think that having a colored piece of paper on the inside is better than having a white piece of paper on the inside, but that basically, clearly, either the notices haven't been going out, in which case we might have a postal problem. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that could be happening. If the notices are going out, we definitely have a problem that a large number of people think they haven't gotten them. And regardless of whether they actually have gotten them, our goal was not just to prove that we sent them. Our goal was to inform people. And I personally...
You think we don't do enough? We do everything humanly possible. The only thing we don't vote for them because it's illegal.
Well,
and if it's illegal, trust me, I will vote for them.
That is one...
So what else can we do? We cannot go to their home and check their mail and tell them, read your mail. I mean, what you suggesting we do more? Then what has to do with this letter?
I disagree with the idea that we're doing everything that's humanly possible. I think we're doing everything that's required. And I'm not suggesting that we didn't do what was required. As best I can tell, we did what was required. I just don't think that what was required was enough to inform people. I mean, for example, we put up signs at the old polling place. That's also, that's required by our policy that I believe I was the one who proposed, but it's not required by law. I mean, good for us. But we apparently put them on all the entrances to the old facility except the one that people used to go vote. So when people went to the facility, to the entrance they were used to going to for voting, there was not a sign at that particular entrance. Now, does that mean that we did anything wrong? Well, I'm not sure how we would necessarily have known. Maybe we would have known. But it certainly means that there's a number of people who went to that polling place and were not we're not immediately informed as to what was, as to what the situation was. My own view is that we should do what we can to make sure that people are in fact informed about any changes that we make. Making a polling place change is a big deal, I think that we should take whatever steps we can to make sure that people receive and notice that they have received any notification that talks about changes in polling place.
David, what
Mr.
has to do
President?
with...
Yeah.
With regards to the notification to voters with regards to their polling place change, in 2014, individuals came into my office and said that the voter notification form that the state requires us to use, they received it, that they were one of these individuals that ended up with the other party. And they said, oh yeah, I saw it and threw it away. All right, and we got some feedback that happened. So once we went into this new fiscal year and we made these changes, one of the things that we did was we used a standard white envelope with our logo on it that says Montgomery County Board of Elections with our address. It says official document, and all voter notification forms, including regular changes, now go out in this envelope that says Montgomery County official document, and it has the voter notification form in it with all of the information that's required by state law and federal and Spanish requirements and everything else. We are exceeding the state requirement. The state requirement says do a trifold and mail it. We not only do a quad fold, but we also put it in an envelope, a clear envelope, so that a window envelope, and mail it out so that it's very distinctive. And yes, we did use color to do the official change of polling place, and that happened. It was processed in late January, mailed in late January, and we sent out the sample ballot, and that went out in March. This is the old one. I guess I have the new ones here. And again, it notified the individuals, and you redesigned this so that it popped out even further. This is your new polling place. And
in fact, those changes were mandated by the previous board, of which I'm joined here with several other members, where we worked diligently to try and make these, more obvious.
And we did.
So,
make them-
so we have gone the extra step.
Well,
our costs exceed.
And if there was something else we should have done, it certainly didn't come up when we had this discussion and made these changes.
Well, now we have additional data. We have this particular situation where
You
we
have
have.
one precinct.
That is correct. We do, although we have other examples of people who say that they didn't receive things, etc. And again, I don't know whether it's true that they didn't receive them. I would guess that it's probably not true that they didn't.
Well, Senator Raskin is just asserting that notice seems not to have been distributed. He doesn't explain how he knows that.
Well,
But there's a difference between not being distributed and people either not paying attention or not looking at it and then showing up anyways.
Well,
We
but
don't
then,
really know.
well, first of all, if he used the word seems, then he's a step ahead of many others who would have just said it wasn't distributed, which of course, he wouldn't know. What I'm suggesting is that engaging in a conversation with these folks about all the things that we've done to make it better and getting their suggestions as to whatever else they think could be done is relatively cost-free to us. But clearly, there are a number of people who believe that they were not informed. I personally don't find it particularly compelling. We could have had 10 meetings on this subject. The average voter doesn't follow our meetings. So yes, we spent a lot of time trying to do this. And the extra things that we're doing are much better than what we had before. But if it was completely effective, we wouldn't be getting these kinds of complaints.
Who complained though? How do we know how many people actually complain.
Well, we don't, but we could also ask them if we met with them.
But
As to how
anyhow,
many people, as to how many
David,
people
we are
actually
talking
complain.
too much about things nothing to do with this, answering this letter. He's suggesting we repeat things in here should not be repeated, like we would be happy to get any other suggestion you may have. That's fine. And then the next page, you said the board is certainly, again, you're repeating this thing. He's saying we don't need that.
Nahid, I was
And
responding.
let's answer to this, let's send this letter. The other one is a different issue. We have to.
I was responding to what Margaret and Mary Ann just said. Okay, I have no problem with not asking for suggestions 3 times if people are offended by asking too many times. My own view was that I was trying to come up with a way to take them seriously and indicate that we're all in this together, and to then have a conversation with them. I thought that was part of the goal. If you would rather
Repeating the same thing, we're having conversation with them?
if you would rather send a different letter and not have a phone call or a briefing with them, that's fine. I mean, I personally think that if you want to address the concerns, that it would be a good idea to listen to what they have to say.
Who is the them and the they? You're talking beyond just the,
There's four legislators.
Senator.
There's 4 legislators who signed this letter.
oh, just the legislators,
Yeah.
okay.
So if we end the paragraph with, to go back to this, if the closing paragraph says something on the order of, we'd be glad to talk further with you about this if we haven't answered your questions. Isn't that what, and summarize that?
Yeah, the last sentence says, "Thank you for your letter, and we look forward to working with you to achieve a successful election."
And then,
Well,
the
but
other
that's
page
where
is-
I would make the offer and say, if you feel you need additional information, please let us know. Please get in touch.
Sure,
I agree.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a problem.
And then, if they still think they want to sit down,
Please, yeah,
meeting,
we're always
then we can
available,
schedule
sure.
it. I mean, I think that's
So,
the norm that I.
Summary paragraph.
So you're talking about the letter that Kevin drafted, and just add at the very end, if you need any further information, or
Thank
you
you
want to
for
discuss
If you would
this
like
any
to
further?
meet with us or have any further information, we're
Yes, already
Be glad
said
to.
that. Thank you for your letter,
Anytime
and
at
we
all.
look forward to speaking with you further about this
Oh, that's on
important
the
issue.
change.
No, this is not the
Yes.
Can we yet again assign Kevin to finalize this letter?
Yes.
And get it out?
just that.
First thing in the morning.
Can
Just
I
that.
just get a clarification, Jim? Because it sounded like what you were saying is that you just want to add 1 sentence to Kevin's letter and ignore my other suggestion.
No, I think Mary Ann's suggestion is, after listening to all of us, Kevin is going to revise the letter, and we'll send it out.
You
Well,
are incorporating your idea.
In other words, Kevin
Please
has been taking
contact
notes and
us
listening
if
to
you
us,
want
and
further information.
Mary
no,
Ann's
I'll
suggestion.
decide if we're incorporating my ideas. Thank you.
Okay then.
No, Mary Ann's suggestion is that Kevin, listening to us, will revisit the letter, put in the text, the concepts of what we want, and we'll get it done.
Okay, well, if you want me to participate in the briefing, if you want me to be one of the, to be able to say that you spoke on behalf of me, I would like to see it before it goes out, and give me a short deadline, that's fine. I'll do that.
Well,
Oh, wait a second, I thought, never mind.
This is the letter to Rasmus.
look, I think we should just add the sentence that we were just talking about to the end, and
I send it.
other than that,
See
keep
what they
it as
ask
it,
for.
as it was written.
So in other words, you're saying that you're rejecting all of my other suggestions?
That's right.
Okay.
We're not ignoring them. We disagree with them.
Okay, fine. Then I just don't want to be included, and that's fine.
So you just want me to sign it as president?
Yeah.
Not on behalf?
Not on behalf of me.
Well, I don't want to say on behalf of everybody but David.
Well, then don't say it.
So I'll just sign it.
Change it.
I'll sign it. We'll take out on behalf.
Just say Jim Shallett, President.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know where on behalf came from.
Yeah, we didn't.
It's so
that's
so
not-
democratic.
You never.
Okay.
You just signed it yourself?
Yeah,
All right,
President.
Kevin,
President.
We'll get it for you to
thanks,
sign.
great. And the other letter, I don't think anybody responded lately, but I think the state letter is ready to go? The one to the governor and the legislature?
I had no problems with it.
So that's ready to go? So can you get that ready for my signature too? So those two letters go. The two letters left are,
Not anymore, just
no, the two letters left are to the Democratic Central Committee, and there was a chief judge that wrote us a letter.
Right.
Okay.
And
What
these
I
are-
was suggesting was that
And you gave
by
us,
Wednesday, if we could get sign off on the letter to the Democratic Central Committee, and then we will send a letter.
Do we have the letter from Mr. Banner?
Yes, I sent it to you Thursday night.
Can we?
Why
can we
didn't
get
it?
the-
And I
Oh,
did give
oh,
that to you.
Did-
I will send you an
Did you
electronic
email it?
version of this draft today. And we will draft a response for Jim, just Jim, and will you have the Jim respond to this letter by the chief?
and to the chief, yeah.
All right, then, going on to the reports. First report is communications by Margie Rohr.
Getting the projector set up.
Oh,
I'm not
Oh.
ignoring it. I'm not ignoring you. We're just waiting for the
Oh, and just a
projector to get
reminder,
set up.
we have to convert to the Board of Canvassers tonight also.
Yes, you do. You
We
have
do?
two
Two,
oh,
ballots. that
two
can-
late ones?
Yeah, just, sure.
let me just, there's one other letter, this one.
Okay, thank you.
They're not final? Doesn't sound like it.
It says it's someone said she works for Laurel. She never showed up. It's been 3 weeks. So I dropped these.
It's okay. It won't impact anything. There you go, it's white now. It's only yellow when the
Oh,
lights.
Margie, did you design that?
Yes, I did. I created all of that. Love online graphics. So what Margaret sent to you on Friday was what we're calling our executive report. It goes into some details, but I've done a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation to go over some additional things for you regarding the communication report. And it's going to cover all of our telephone, our call center, the IVR, the county 311. It's going to cover our advertising, our PSAs, and other things. So we're just going to kind of go through here. Not going to read every slide for you word for word. Certainly we'll cover most of it. With the call center, we increased our staffing to 5 individuals this year, 2 of which were proficient in Spanish. And when we had peak call periods, we also supplemented those individuals with our regular voter registration staff. What we found was we had a reduced number of phone calls than in the past. We believe that that's due to the fact that we had increased information about the elections and the new voting equipment and all of that in the sample ballot, which was sent out much earlier this time than in previous years. So voters had that information in front of them. We also included, if you recall, in the sample ballot an application for an absentee ballot. And so as a result, we had 25% fewer voters requesting an absentee ballot through the call center than we did in 2014. So that was a good addition in terms of saving time. So those
Do
are
you
just-
have numbers on how many people sent in that from the sample ballot request?
I don't. Jessica, did we capture that anywhere?
That'll be next month's report.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And what was the major call on? What,
We're getting there.
oh, you're getting there?
We're getting
Okay, good.
Okay, so we're dealing with the call center right now, which is our call center. And you can see that the majority of the calls came in. Our heaviest week was March 28th to April 2nd, which was leading right up to the April 5th voter registration deadline. The largest number of calls that we received pertain to, oh, that screen is getting in the way, pertain to voter registration, followed by absentee voting. So everything seemed to be consistent in our call center, at least, with the majority of calls coming in relating to voter registration and coming in right before the voter registration deadline. Inbound phone calls by nature and type, again, what you see is The largest number of that is under general questions, is how they categorize them in our call center. And general questions refers to voter registration, party affiliation, dates of the election, hours of operations, and that type of thing. So we're seeing consistency in voter registration is what's really driving the calls. So we also have our integrated voice response system, which we've talked about off and on. That's our IVR. When you call into 8683, it goes straight into the IVR, and that gives people the automated option of getting the information they need without having to actually talk to one of our staff members. It is available 24 hours a day, which means folks can call in late at night and not have to worry about calling at a specific time. As many of you know, the IVR includes information on voter registration, absentee, polling place locator, and other information. So we've got that. And they're also provided with an opportunity to zero out to call an operator. During early voting, April 14th to 21st, this particular matrix shows the majority of calls coming in during normal office hours, peaking right before and right after the lunch hour, but not actually during the lunch hour, which I thought was a little interesting. I would have thought we would have been getting a lot of calls during lunchtime. Sticking with early voting, the total number of calls that came in through the IVR was 1769. The majority of those, as you see, came in during normal office hours. And again, the majority of calls are coming into regarding voter registration and absentee.
Do you have people here after hours, or do they leave and call them back?
During early voting, we have people here during early voting hours, so 8 to 8.
So what is considered after hours for this?
After hours would be after 8 p.m. during early voting. On election day, we saw a little bit of a different peak in the number of when the calls were coming in. They were coming in early in the morning as opposed to later in the day. And the majority of those calls were still dealing with voter registration. But really the main purpose of the calls was the operator calls, and those are when you're zeroing out. Now what this doesn't tell me, and what it's hard for me to drill down on, is are these the election judges calling in, or are these voters calling in on election day? So that's difficult for me to pick up from these matrices, but we do see that most of the people calling on election day called during normal office hours, during election hours, so between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., and they zeroed out to an operator without listening to anything on the menus.
When you have this voter registration being the overwhelming in each of these categories, do you drill down in that at all? Are people calling to ask what their registration is? Or are they calling to say, gee, I'm registered Democrat, but can I vote for Trump?
Or am I registered?
Yeah, the IVR matrix is not going to break it down any further. Jessica, do you have any information on the breakdown for registration?
Report I can give you.
Oh, really?
We track and log just a little brief detail, so I can just give you a summary.
That's great, thank you.
And then our third way of getting phone calls is, of course, through Montgomery County 311, which is the county customer service center. As you will recall, 311 really has removed themselves from our calls because of the individuality of each call coming in. And so as a result, especially during peak election times, there are not many calls being tracked through 311 because they're told to just transfer the calls immediately to the Board of Elections. And that will be obvious, as you can see, during early voting, April 14th to 21st, they only tracked 78 calls for the Board of Elections. And of those 78, voter registration was 62. On election day, they only tracked 71 calls, of which 49 is in that other category. And I do have a call in to find out what they're considering other. This is, their definitions, and I have not had a call back. I think the liaison there is on leave or something, but I'm trying to determine that.
It looks like it's anything but voter registration.
Yeah, well, and in reality, on election day, those calls should pretty much be done with because it is or it isn't at that point.
Yeah.
So I'll try to get more information, so when we have these for the general election, we can have a little bit more specific on that. Election day visitors were a particularly unique challenge for me this year. Not a happy one by any means. What was happening was the media did not want to just show up and talk to people outside the polling place. They all wanted to set up their tripod and film live throughout the day. And so that required a lot of additional work, because I didn't want to have more than one media at one polling place, because I didn't want to jam up the polling places. So trying to figure out where they could be and not impact the voters, it was a little bit more challenging. And so because of these logistical issues, I am going to be reaching out to the State Board of Elections to work to find out from them what exactly we must do to accommodate the media, because my goal is to make sure that our voters are not impacted and that our judges are not overburdened. And there was a sense that some of that was going on this time. So I want to work with State Board of Elections to develop a better method for handling these kinds of requests, because it seems to be where we're going.
I suspect, having no life and watching elections constantly, every single election night now, all of the networks and all of the cable stations are in polling places. And they are interviewing judges, they're interviewing voters. So I think this is going to be more the wave of the future.
Well, and I got a couple of organizations said, well, we were just in New York and we were able to do it in New York. And I said, well, I'm sorry, you're not broadcasting live from a polling place in Montgomery County. So again, it's working with the state to figure out what will they allow, what won't they allow, and then figuring out a better way to manage it on our end for that reason. And of course, with the general election, I'm expecting that we will have more actual visitors to the polling places like we have in the past. We only had 2 visitors for the primary election. So I will be bringing back some previous board members and previous staff members to help so that you guys can be out in the field doing what you need to do. Doesn't mean there won't be any need for you for some of the visitors, but I'm going to try to minimize that as best I can for the general election. Media advisories. We began issuing media advisories back on January 6, 2015. That was specific to candidate filing information. And our last media advisory went out on April 19th. 37 in total went out via email, Twitter, Facebook, radio, and newspaper. As you know, they're distributed in both English and Spanish. We've also been working with the local municipalities to get them added to our distribution list so that then they can push them out to their listserv. Don't have all of them on board yet, but my goal is to work with them throughout the summer and get all of the local municipalities so that we're reaching an even broader demographic and locality. When our press releases go out, they're sent out through something called Gov Delivery. And so this is the matrix that I get back with each individual press release. So this shows that there's 3,597 recipients. Keep in mind that a lot of those are distribution lists that once it hits that one person, it's going out to maybe another 20,000 people. So we're in no way just reaching 3,597. 99.5% of them are delivered. Can't make people open mail, just like you can't make the horse drink the water, so we're showing 19% are being open. 19%.
Can you go back for a second?
Yeah.
So we're sending out to 3,600 people these press releases, and 19% of them are opening them. Any idea what's happening, or do we have,
People just aren't opening them
do you have
because
any,
they.
you have any data on who is opening them?
No, and I don't think that that's available. I can certainly check into that.
Are you, as a result of that, somehow capturing on the subject line or whatever it would be in these different things, something that'll get their attention as to
the title of the
what
media
issue
advisory is in the subject line. And so like this one that I pulled was the last one that went out. Preliminary election returns available on the county website was the subject line of the email that they received. So they do see what the subject of the media advisory is when it goes out. Okay. It takes in 3 minutes. Once I hit the send button, within 3 minutes, 98% have been distributed, and within 30 minutes, 99% have been out. Of the 3597, it's showing that 3579 were delivered. Again, that's 99%. Only 1,002 of those are being opened. On this particular media advisory, those bulletin analytics would differ based on which advisory was going out, because certainly some people are going to key in on different ones. So these are the types of information I get for each of the media advisories. And then our marketing and advertising, this is where our PSAs come in. We had 3 30-second PSAs developed for us in both English and Spanish through the Office of Public Information. And as you know, we have many discussions here. They were distributed through Comcast, Radio America, Washington Chinese Daily News, Telemundo, Washington Post, Montgomery County Ride-On, which is the posters that we put inside each Montgomery County Ride-On bus, Facebook, and WMAL. I have been working with each of these organizations to try to develop a chart showing how many people received or were reached by that, and that information is slow to come in, but I haven't given up on getting it. So, okay. And so lessons learned. The integrated voice response system needs to be upgraded with current software to ensure that there's no interruption in service. And we do have a contract in process so that those upgrades can occur prior to September. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be working with the state board to help us develop a better election day management plan for the demands of the media. I will continue to work with the local municipalities to get them all on board in time for the general election media advisories. And with public service announcements, you know, I say here a lot was accomplished with very little. I think we did pretty good, but we really need to try to get the county to understand that we do need additional funding in that line item. Advertising in the Washington metropolitan area is very expensive, and if we want to reach a broader demographic, we need to have more funds. The fact that we're accomplishing what we're doing with $20,000 is pretty much a miracle. So we really do need to try to keep focused on that. So happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Well done. Good job.
Yeah.
If we need more funds, do you have any suggestions for how much we need and when?
We've developed several options in the past. I would think that if we could get an additional $30,000 to put us at an advertising budget of 50, we would be able to reach out to African American demographics, Vietnamese, Korean. We would be able to reach out to a lot more media, a lot more demographics if we had the funding.
When would we have to propose that?
Well, it's too late now for this current, so we would need to include that in the budget we'll be working on through the fall, which is the FY18, which would be the primary election.
Yeah.
I would guess it would be well received by our funders.
Well, I would like to think so, but we've proposed it in the past and it has not been.
Yeah,
So,
it didn't fly. We had a plan, did we not, when we thought, you know, we were going to be getting
Yes.
more money with the new equipment and everything?
yes.
And you had a breakdown then. Is it worth reviewing that and pulling out something that would total the 50,000 so we could have
I think
something?
I actually did that at one point fairly
what I was
recently. I think I
wondering.
went for a total of 50,000. I can certainly go through my files and pull that and bring it up at a future meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next
You're welcome.
one is Janet Ross, and she's going to be talking about the IT portion of the election and the primary.
Oh, did you give her the figure?
I don't know.
Got it.
Having technical issues here.
I'm glad I didn't have technical.
Better it be the technical person.
IT person than me.
Flawless.
Okay, so this is the report from the IT department. This first slide is just showing you all the equipment we had to prepare for this election. Everything on the slide is new to us except for the electronic poll book. So it was a learning experience this whole election. Okay, and equipment preparation is usually 4 stages we go through, but because we had new equipment this election, we had to do acceptance testings And so it was 370 scanners we had to do acceptance tests on. We had 520 ballot marking devices. We had 3,687 voting booths. That's the regular voting booths. We didn't include the handicap ones, the ADA ones, because I forgot the numbers. And we had 75 new poll books. And then once we did the scanners, we had to go back and do the scanners again because they had foam around the sides and it didn't work correctly. It was stopping the scanning of the ballots. So ES&S came and took out those foam, and we had to retest every scanner. So we did this, I think we started getting our first delivery in end of September, from September to December. We did all of the scanners and the BMDs. We didn't receive the voting booths until early January, and by the time we started logic and accuracy, we still hadn't finished the voting booths, but we finished them afterwards. And we had to just go through and put them all together, make sure all the parts were there, take them all apart and put them, pack them back up. Every single booth.
Wow.
Okay, and doing logic and accuracy, you can see what we normally do. I'm just going to point out that this is where we create the integrity reports for all the equipment and where we load the databases. This was new for us. Normally we have the cards, and it's quicker with the gym server. With electionware, it's a tedious process. We had 976 memory sticks we had to create the election on. That was for the ballot marking devices, and every scanner got 2, a front one and a back one. And then we had to label every single memory stick with the serial number and the polling place data, what polling place it was going to. We had to load the election to all the memory sticks. And then this is for the poll books. We had to label all the compact flashcards, which we do every election. And then we have to duplicate the database onto the cards.
Janet?
Yes.
A question, when you say load the election, what does that mean?
The state sends us the election file, like it contains for the scanners, it contains the different ballots.
Oh, I see.
And for the poll book, it contains the roster. So they send us, they create the main file, they give it to us, and we have to load it to our equipment.
Precinct specific.
Yeah.
Or countywide, depending on what we're.
And this is where we do the early voting as well as election day. And this time the state did something different. The early voting software for the poll books was different than the election day software. It's normally the same and we just do a bulk update, but they did it different this time. And I'll go back to logic and accuracy for a second. We had to update the poll book software 2 times this cycle. And that's just not the ones we're using. That's every single one we have plus the training databases. Then we get to logic and accuracy. We train the staff on the procedures. We do the LNA. We complete the LNA paperwork. And that's when we verify the integrity reports. And then we have to conduct the public demonstration on the scanners and the BMDs. We're not doing the poll books and the scanners and the BMDs at the same time. Normally, we're doing the BMDs and the scanners. By the time we get to the public test, that's the end for those. We should be all done, and then we start the poll books. But they go through the same process. The poll book just has another step because of early voting, where we have to do the bulk update and update it with everything from early voting and anybody that requested an absentee ballot after we pulled the initial registration file. Okay, this is the new integrity report for the scanning unit. And everywhere you see a number is what we have to pre-fill in for the judges. And what we normally do that during the prep process, and we scan in the serial number from the actual scanner. We do a spreadsheet in Excel and we do a merge to load it here. But we have to assign all of these seals and numbers, and we have to pack them in little plastic bags with the precinct assigned. And then when we go to do LNA, we're handing them out. This is yours. This is for this machine. And we have to. The IT staff have to make sure everything matches. And this is different. This is the opening for the scanner. And before, the closing was always blank for us. And that's why I forgot it on my initial report that I sent to you. We now have to fill in these 2 numbers. That's to say what serial number we're assigned to the memory sticks that go into the scanners, so that we make sure we get the right ones back. And then this is the ballot marking devices. We only fill in those two fields, and the poll book is the same. Okay, so this is the accuracy rate on these. I didn't finish filling it in. Well, we had 10 lead seal numbers. We had 4 serial numbers wrong. That means we scanned them in. And what happens is, doing LNA, if this machine goes down while we're doing it, we have to switch out the machine. And if one of the guys forget to tell us that or they forget to mark up the paperwork, we forget to go back and scan the right serial number. So most of these are, when we change out machines, that's where we make our mistakes. Or it's a few typos that are not caught. And then down here is the memory stick, serial numbers. And we did have issues right before the public testing, where the state called us and notified us that all these machines we had sent the results for the LNA, they didn't get the results. And it wasn't a matter of us having to just resend them. We had to actually re-LNA all the machines because the data was not getting to them. It was something with electionware that we still don't understand. But we had to do like 10 machines over to get the data. And I will go back and fill in these error rates. Okay, and this is the BMD, how many issues we had, and the poll book. Okay, and this is the equipment we sent out. And I gave you more information in my report about which precincts got sent back. I know this was the Silver Spring Civic Center that it was replaced. And then we also have one scanner at the Silver Spring Center where we forgot, the IT team forgot to change the paper. And we had the 11 poll books with the same day registration software. Okay, the same day registration software issue, the state called us, they actually called me Wednesday night when we were setting up for early voting and said there's a problem. We accidentally knocked some code out. So when you print your voter authority cards for same-day registrants, you're probably not going to get a name on the thing. So in order to identify it, we had to come with a workaround. So we just sent an email to all of the center managers and said, just have your same-day registration judges check the back and make sure if it doesn't have a name, they write their voter's name on it. And we only did that for one day because then we worked with the state to say, send us the correct software and we will replace only the same-day registration stations. But all 96 poll books we sent out were incorrect. We only replaced the 11 where they were using the same day. And we knew if one of them went down, we would just go back to our workaround until we got them a new poll book. And this change only affected PG and Montgomery County because they were trying to insert so that it printed Spanish on the back. And election day equipment, you have the specific precincts in the report. And again, we forgot one scanner with paper. And this scanner, the chiefs accidentally took it out of voting mode, so they couldn't get it to work. And luckily the roamer was there and got it to work. And then this scanner stopped working late in the afternoon, and we decided by the time we got them a scanner, it wouldn't be worth it.
Do we know why it stopped working?
No, it was 7:23 and 9:31? Yeah, 9:31. Both of them just stopped scanning. For 9:31, we had an ES&S tech here, actually working here. We sent him out. He said he couldn't fix it. He didn't know what was happening, but he couldn't get it to work either. So we had to replace it.
And there was the issue of the scanner at the Silver Spring Library. I can't remember what the number
1305.
1305, yeah.
That one went down. It said a memory issue.
What was the issue?
A memory issue. Just came up with an error message as soon as they opened that it had a memory issue.
So aside from the paper, the one with the paper, it was 3 that were defective in effect?
5 actually. It's 4 right here. It was 720.
13.5.
1305.
In other words, how many bad scanners were there?
5.
5?
411, 711, 723, 931, 1305.
But some of those 5, there was 2 scanners, right?
7-Eleven had 2 and 723 had 2.
So it was 3 that,
We had, yeah, 3
Yeah, there was a
that didn't,
fatal
were
error.
not able to operate when they opened.
Well, they had to use the bypass window.
Right.
right, 3, 5.
Which was causing some discomfort for some voters.
Yes.
One of these voting places has only one scanner, and the scanner was done, right?
There was 3.
It was 3 of them.
3
Three
places.
of them that had one scanner only?
411, 931, 1305. But 931 did not go down until like late morning. It was working fine when it came up and then it went down.
Going 415 had 2 scanners and they both went down.
At opening. And one wasn't really down, it just didn't have the paper to run the reports. And then this one wasn't down either. One of the chiefs somehow took it out of voting mode. And the Roma went back and put it in voting mode so that they can, and that was right at 7 o'clock.
When it's out of voting mode, can it be used?
No,
I mean, it's not down in the sense that
It's
it's
not
broken,
down.
but it's not usable.
until they put it back in voting mode. It's more like in administrative mode where we're setting the machine and doing all that. Okay, so then we're gonna go to election night. We had 7 regional sites around the county, and then the Board of Elections made the 8. So we had the Potomac Library, Potomac Community Center, only library, Mid-County Rec Center, Praisner Rec Center, White Oak Rec Center, Silver Spring Library, and the Bethesda Library, and then Board of Election was considered the main upload site. Okay, and this shows you how many precincts were assigned to go to each of those sites to upload their results. So the most was here, 71, because we had to do like the Germantown, the Gaithersburg, up north. Everybody was close to here, we sent to here.
Did the extra number here make it go slower here compared to the other locations?
Actually, we were
No,
the fastest.
We were the fastest.
We were done before everybody else.
Because we have more people here working on it?
No.
No.
No, not at all.
So all the traffic came from where?
For here,
This location?
The
was
traffic jam we had.
Germantown, Potomac, Darnestown, Damascus.
Delivery of the bags, though.
Oh,
that was out
That
back.
wasn't the regional.
The
That was-
regional upload bags came up front.
Okay.
And they usually get here before that traffic started. We had the judges, there was a VOPD driver that left as soon as the scanner was shut down with the memory stick, the backup memory stick, and they came straight here with it so that we would have our results earlier. Okay, this just gives you the graph of when we receive results. So we started at 9:20, and we know we missed the 9:10 early, the 9 o'clock posting. We got it up by 9:10. That was because we were having problems with the file. But by 9:20, we already had 80 precincts in. Then you can see as it goes up. By 11 o'clock, we had 95 point,
Yeah, almost 96%.
yeah, 96% here.
And
And then these were precincts, some of them were the ones that had the scanner problem, so they had to scan after the precinct closed. We had a few that I had to call, and for some reason the chief just was not aware of the criticalness of sending that VOP driver immediately. And then one just was like, I didn't know what the bag was for, and so I had to explain the process and say, please get to the Silver Spring Library with the bag. And then the last 2 was because the 2 thumb drives we got in the black bags didn't upload. They would not upload, so we had to wait for the closers to come with the main thumb drives to get the results and use those.
Didn't the State Board of Elections website have our returns and quorums?
Early
Yes.
voting.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Yes.
because it took, go ahead.
Yeah, how does the state get it?
We have to send it to the state as soon as we're finished.
Right.
And that was at 2 o'clock.
Right.
But we have a DTS person comes over and he helps us do the website on election night. And Lisa, my IT tech, was burning the files from the server to give to him. But she kept having problems. The files with electionware are so big sometimes you just have issues trying to download it. And she was having issues with that.
So
But
you
the
see
state
I'm
got
sorry, the state got it in by a different medium?
Yes.
Yes, they
They have
get
a
it
direct
as soon as
feed.
we're done. We send it to them.
Oh,
How do we send it to them?
They go over our network.
And we can't do that for the county website person?
No,
It's
it's
a
a
state.
dedicated state
Oh, I
network
see.
versus a dedicated county network. They're two separate
I
networks.
see.
And the county network was not able to do this time because of the problem of,
No, he was actually downstairs with us.
Uh-huh.
She was just trying to download the file from the
right.
state server.
But I mean, would have been faster if we had sent it to him without downloading it with him being here.
We can't do
My
that.
purse is.
They will not allow it. There's
We
no,
cannot
nowhere to
resolve,
send
we cannot
anything.
release the results to anyone except the state prior to the close of the.
It physically gets burned to a thumb drive and then walked over to an adjacent computer
Right.
to be uploaded to our website.
So it gets burned to a thumb drive, but it has to wait until 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever the polls closing hour is. And then it has to go to a computer here
Right.
and get uploaded here.
Right.
Whereas the state gets the transmission earlier because they're the state and they can do that.
Right.
And it's a direct feed. It's
Right.
just pulling it off of the direct network because it's being uploaded. There's two different, there's the ERM
I see.
Right.
and the
And the
dis-
ERN.
and the ERN, and it's how it's transmitted.
Are we not allowed to
Thanks.
burn it without uploading it before the polls close?
Well, that's one of the
one of our
things that,
recommendations.
that's our, yeah, that's one of our recommendations to the state is that, because especially if you have early voting with the 10 different, so you want an early voting cumulative with the 10 early voting sites subset. So in order to do that, we need to be allowed to burn that earlier because it is such a huge file.
So if you burn it earlier, it's possible that it could then be uploaded at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock,
Right.
whatever the,
Yeah, one of our recommendations is to burn that file 30 to 40 minutes earlier.
and then just hang
And just
on to
hand it to them and
Yeah,
tell them to
yeah.
upload it when they
Right.
can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to the Canvas. For the Canvas, we use the DS-850 high-speed scanner. We greatly reduced the time and personnel needed. But during this process, 2 batches were identified as not matching the numbers into Smartsheet by $49,113. The batch in which the count was off by 113. We actually cleared out the scanner and reran it, and we came up with the same number. So we assumed, IT, that it was an accounting error on absentee's part. But then after we certified and they came back and they resolved the issue with the missing batches and empty voters, they said there were still 162 ballots short. And that's when we said, it may be these 2 batches. So we went downstairs, we manually counted it. And we identified it was the 2 batches. Now the 49, I kind of assumed because I'll show you in the next slide why, it was absentee and I didn't say anything. 113, I actually said, this is an issue. We need to rescan this. So this is the sheet that absentee gives us on each batch, but it's a sheet for every precinct that's in the batch. And you see this 120? This was the first batch we scanned. I got the total should be in this batch. It was originally 492. Lisa scanned the ballot. She said, I only got 478. So that was the very first ballot, the scan batch we did. And so she said, wait, we're not going to do anymore. We're going to manually count and make sure it agrees. And so she came up and said, you're wrong, I'm right. So we went back to absentee and they said, this 120 is wrong, it's 106. So that corrected it. And all along we were going, everyone we had, it was absentee was wrong. And then for the 49, we assumed again absentee was wrong. But the 113, we said there was an issue. But we still to this day do not know how the 113 ballots got into the batch or were missing from the batch.
So you're saying we still don't know?
We don't know what happened. We know that we missed them.
Yeah.
We don't know how. Because we had people going in and out of the room. It was the last 2 batches of the day. And I remember walking in and saying, this don't match, it's 100 and something off, something's wrong. And Lisa and the ES&S person that was here said, let's clear it, let's run it again. They ran it again, they came up with the same number, it was 113 off. So we said it's gotta be absentee. Because we ran it twice and it comes up with the same number. We also had people helping, you know, being helpful, moving stuff, and they might not have been aware that some ballots got mixed up.
We believe that it was as she said, it was at the close of the day. We know exactly when the mistake occurred. We believe that we need to implement, and there was some confusion on my part because I thought the board members were staying longer. So I had 2 more boxes of ballots to be scanned, and I was told, no, you guys wanted to sign off and go, and that we would continue the next day. So in that process, ballots went into the room to be scanned, and then they had to come back out. And in that process, and there were other people helping me do that. So one of my walkaways is that that room where the scanning is going on in the 850 is going to be more highly restricted, so that we know who's in there and who's touching the ballots, so that we don't, and at 6 o'clock or whatever, whenever you, let's say you decide at the October board meeting that your first canvass is going to end at 7 o'clock, then I, the director, am going to have to come to you and your board attorney and say, whoever's running that portion of the canvass, are you guys committed to staying till 7 o'clock, so that I don't, in my desire to get all of this stuff scanned, don't push more material into that scanning room than they're ready to. Because it has to be, the process needs to be controlled very tightly with those badges, so that we can, and they did do a good job of controlling the badges. And we're also going to, and Jessica will be talking about some of the things that we're going to implement coming out of MD Voters with badge management, tying MD Voters absentee by badge in advance, so that when we go downstairs, that some of these columns of numbers that we run on Smartsheet to prevent you from, to help us for the audit purposes, will be in place. And so if we all of a sudden say it's supposed to say 106, MD Voter says it's supposed to say 106, and we got 116, we can stop right then and there and know exactly where the mistake is and identify it. But Jessica will talk about that, because we've spent considerable amount of time talking about this particular issue.
Okay, so some of the process improvements we're going to implement for the general, we're going to get a verification team consisting of 2 employees, not part of the IT staff. They're going to assist on LNA, and they're going to verify the steps to make sure nobody's not changing the paper, and make sure the paperwork is done correctly, because it was different and the guys were forgetting a lot because they weren't used to doing the paperwork. Normally Lisa and I do the paperwork for LNA. We do all the numbers because we do 1 precinct at a time, but now with this new paperwork, it's 1 test for every machine. You got to fill out paperwork, where before we could just do it at the precinct. And then we're going to verify the data on the integrity reports. We got to get better control of that. It was different because we had more data with the scanners. And just as a backup, we're going to pack a roll of paper in a black transfer cart for every scanner, just in case. And we're going to provide, we already talked about this, we're going to give them the early voting results 30 to 40 minutes earlier. And we're going to work with absentee and voter registration to develop a cover sheet that provides the total number of ballots contained in each batch prior to us scanning it. Because what was happening was Lisa was scanning, I was hurrying up to do Smartsheet to figure out what the total was, and then going to see if we agreed. So we're telling the absentee, you got to tell us in advance what it is, what's in the batch. And this is just a preview of the sheet that Jessica and I have sort of come up with. So it's going to say how many is in each batch, and if it doesn't agree, we stop. We're not going any further until we figure out what's missing or what's wrong. Okay?
Good.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, operations.
She dropped 5 million pieces of the Two companies do it. She's giving 5 million back.
I don't know. I don't think you're gonna be able
Yeah.
No, you can't.
You can just page down though.
You can do it from the arrow. It's not a slash. It's just in the doing that. So you want to
Let's just go with that.
Yes.
Sorry I missed your party, I know you get
Just the
beautiful weather.
arrow.
just do the arrow, yeah.
Yes. I wonder the bus was there.
Okay, good evening. We put together the different pieces that correlate to the summary report that you received earlier that operations is involved in. A lot of these photos that you're going to see are kind of before and after, and I will try to explain to you as we go on. First thing we'll talk about is Janet did a lot of discussion already about transitioning from into the paper-based system. We received, probably starting last August 2015, about 6,000 pieces of equipment. And I hit something.
Hit escape.
Hit escape.
Escape. So we had trucks coming in with our different pieces, in and out for about 2 to 3 months. We had our own challenges getting those 18-wheelers into our dock. Then we, at about August, the end of July, we were totally built out last summer and ready to receive equipment. This is a before picture. This is the equipment warehouse. Then we started to receive equipment. We knew with the number of pieces that we were going to have, that we were going to have to go up. So this was the construction and the installation of the shelving units. And that is an after picture, after all the equipment was in, organized, and shelved. That's what it looks like downstairs at the moment in the equipment warehouse. Then we're on the other side of the warehouse now, the supply warehouse. This is what it looked like after the build-out. We took the newly leased space and then converted it to our needs. That was the picture before we started to move in. This is the after the shelving was in. Those are the blue bins. And this is what it looks like today. So we're using all of our space.
And this is what that new piece of equipment that you were talking about, Margie, right?
Yes.
Get it up to the top.
Get all the stuff up
That's-
top,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes. And then you will remember this. We had a lot of discussion on how we should select our early voting sites. You had an opportunity to listen to public comment in Rockville in September. That was your audience. After the public comment and your debates, we wound up with 10 early voting centers and 4 alternates. That was equivalent to 33,700 square feet of space that we used throughout the county. Janet talked about equipment that we delivered out and we used during early voting. Office Movers has been very good to us about delivering efficiently and delivering in a timely, correct manner. We had, for early voting, about 500 different pieces of material, carts, equipment that office movers had to have out at the 10 sites, including 67, almost 68,000 ballots were in those carts. We started Wednesday night setting up, and by Thursday morning, we were ready to open on the 14th at 10 a.m. The security that we basically dealt with was changing out the locks, the cylinders of each of the interior doors. This was to ensure that security was in the hands of BOE staff members. BOE staff members were the only ones that had keys to those rooms. Voting continued through the 8 days with minimal disruption. Things really went quite smoothly. And during that 8-day period, we served 43,039 early voters.
That's the total for early voting?
Yes, 43,039. And then we went through the process of delivery and getting ready. This is Wheaton. We saw Lawton just a second ago, and this is kind of what people were seeing as they arrived to set up. This was Wheaton in the progress of setting up. These are the numbers for primary. We started out in 2010 with about 7,600 voters, and as you just mentioned, Jim, with the 43, and with our 10 sites, we served 43,000 plus voters. In the corner with the red bars are the results of the 10 sites. Silver Spring doing almost double to what some of the other centers did.
Potomac was second.
Potomac was second. Would you like to have the top 5?
No, keep
No?
going.
Okay. Okay.
Not without the bottom 5.
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. Approximately 15%, we had voter comment cards out at all the early voting centers. Approximately 15% of the early voters completed those cards. That's about 6,600. I thought you might find this interesting. There are several questions on those comment cards. I know you all have seen them. One of the questions is, how did you hear about early voting? And overwhelmingly, when I went through those comments, sample ballot was their source of early voting information.
Do you have a number or a percentage?
We could go back and glean that out for you, but I don't have percentages right now. But when I was doing my random check,
Okay.
it was overwhelmingly.
I think it would be
that-
useful to have eventually.
Okay. And these are verbatim, and I thought you might find them interesting. Question was asked, I think it's the last question, about how we can improve our service or how we can improve the center. And these are verbatim from the comment cards. One said thank you, and of course there were lots of positives, mostly positive comments. I like having this convenient polling place. Glad that we are using paper ballots. Keep up the good work. I can't think of anything to improve. My experience was good. This one was cute. Would appreciate cookies and a drink.
No.
So we would.
Great experience. Thank you for working the polls for us. And then there really weren't a lot of derogatory comments, but these were the comments that I expected since this was the first time out for paper. So we have paper ballots are dumb. Get rid of paper. Why are we back to paper ballots? Filling out bubbles with a pen is absolutely horrible. Go back to the touch screens and prefer electronic. But those were minimal comments, but those were your comments about the new system. Polling places. We have 232 polling places which serve 255 precincts throughout the county. These were all approved after deliberation and were sent over to the state for the state's approval, and then the state integrates all of our information into the database. And then directed by the state, we were to conduct surveys of each site during the preparation 2015. So summer and fall of last year, each site was surveyed. And then, according to state law, and we've discussed this earlier in discussions earlier today about notifying the voters. The voters were notified in January, and then the state takes all of the information that is provided about polling places, and there is the lookup for any voter to research, and I imagine all of you have had an opportunity to use that. They can use different ways of finding out that information in the polling place lookout. Office movers, again, was good to us. They managed 32 delivery routes over a 6-day period, and this is for election day. They sent out or delivered the black carts, the scanners, the poll books, the ballot marking devices with the ADA tables, voting booths, and vote here signs. All polling places had the correct equipment to get set up on Monday, and everything was set up that they could, election judges could manage to do prior to the Tuesday morning setup. All locations reported that evening, Monday evening, that the rooms were ready for election day. Then all buildings opened at 6 a.m. and the election judges began their final preparation, and everyone opened at 7, or their poll books were open prior to 7, but the doors were open at 7, except for one polling place where we had a 7:10 opening. Voting continued throughout the day with minimal issues, and then during the 2016 presidential primary, almost 250,000 voters were served in Montgomery County. This is, I keep hitting this. This is just another photograph of preparation for delivery. These are the poll books. We delivered out 798 poll books. What happens is that Janet's group needs to download all of the information that was collected from early voting and have it ready to go out Monday morning, the 20th, which would have been April 25th for us during the primary. So they spent their weekend, IT, getting the information into the poll books, and then they organized them in route order so that we could get them out with office movers. So office movers on Monday not only had the regular deliveries, but they had 16 routes of poll books to deliver that Monday before the election. This is another before and after. As we're sitting in this room talking about what are the best polling places and what is appropriate, this is what we were working with at Crown West. So that's a before, and this is what we wound up. This is what the voters saw in precinct 940 as a new precinct. Now, the surveys. The surveys included 2 different forms. One being the polling place survey, which is basically the physical attributes of the building. And then the second form was the Maryland State mandated polling place accessibility survey form. And I will note here that accessibility compliance may be accomplished by creating alternate doors or entrances. Other than the main entrance, for voters with special needs, and distance from the parking areas may be remediated by designating temporary van access where appropriate or utilizing seating along the accessible pathway as a rest area is suggested. However, distance from parking is not a mandated principle in the form that we follow. Aerials and room schematics and facility reports were created as part of what we call the judge packet. The judge packet is given to each of the chief judges a couple weeks prior to the election so that they can prepare themselves and know what their building is like and what they will be doing as far as planning. This is an example of a judge packet. Each site was photographed, and the main entrance, or the entrance that the voters used, was photographed last fall. And I'm using 940 as our example because it was one of our new precincts. So that was the first piece of the judge packet. Second piece was the no electioneering diagram or photograph. That's 25 feet off the door, the markings. The facility report talks about information that's important to the judges so that they know what they're going into. It talks about the number of voters in the precinct, talks about the general turnout, gives them the polling number, gives them the contact information, tells them what kind of phone accommodations they're going to have, what kind of equipment they're going to have, and will also give them technical support numbers that they can use if they have issues when they're setting up. Next diagram or piece that's in the packet is a recommended room schematic. Each one of the rooms was measured, and we tried our best to depict what the room looks like and suggested a flow. This is the instructions on emergency meeting points if we would have an emergency and the building needed to be evacuated. This instruction page gives the chiefs instructions on how they should evacuate and where they would evacuate to. And then each one of the packets also had an aerial of the building showing them where the suggested handicap entrance might be and where the voter entrance is. Polling place supply and management. That's what takes place downstairs. There were over 1,000 supply bags packed for this election, and it was the 100% verification was done by supervisor and BOE administrators. There was a challenge this particular election. IT and supply have always been separate functions, but with this new system and with bringing everything into the black cart, there needed to be a lot of coordination between IT and supply on how we were going to manage getting everything out that needed to go out and in the cart and having some flow as far as work and meeting the calendar. Approximately 465,000 ballots were processed, ordered, inventory, allocated, and packed. And that was overseen by BOE administrators as well. 620 blue ballot transfer bins were prepared to accept scanned voted ballots. They went out with seals on them and blank ballots within them. The instructions were, once the judges started to unpack the black cart, they were to remove the blue bins and have the blue bins emptied, remove all of the unvoted ballots for distribution, and then the blue bins were supposed to be put into the scanner to accept the voted ballots. When we were bringing them back, this was our biggest challenge on returning materials. the blue bin process did not go as we expected. There were 620-some bins that needed to be collected, and the process was that we were to have multiple trucks going out to each precinct and picking them up. That took much longer than we anticipated, and so it caused judges to have a long wait at the polls. They'd closed down, they were ready to go home, and they were still waiting for us to pick up the blue bins. That became an issue, and so some of the, there were multiple ways that the bins came back. Some were delivered back here, some the chiefs kept with them and delivered them back the next day. So this process has to be totally reworked and rediscussed so that we can expedite this process, getting the blue bins back to the building.
Keep going.
Yeah,
Can we talk about this after the end?
oh, okay. Can I ask another quick question about the number of ballots? We printed over 200,000 more
Well,
ballots than we used. Is that,
that's going to be the course, because we cannot anticipate, I mean, the state wanted us to order only, I think, 220,000 ballots. But you have to order enough of all of the ballot styles for early voting, not knowing exactly who's going to show up where. But unfortunately, the ballots have to be packed, and they start delivery during early voting. So there's an overlap, because you can't take the ballots out of the early voting cards and put them in the precinct cards. So yeah, there's going to be, unfortunately, a waste of paper. There's just no two ways around it.
okay.
Some of the other pieces, there were bags that are considered critical materials, the red and the orange bags. They were distributed to the election judges directly through a bag pickup process. After the election, there were over 200,000 backs that were counted for the audit process. 334 transfer carts, 20 cages were dismantled, along with 1,000 supply bags. Approximately 245,000 ballots are staged and will be packed for retention downstairs.
How long do you have to keep those?
2
22
years.
Okay. 2 years, 22 months, technically. This is what the ballot transfer, the black transfer card looked like. There was the scanner. You could put one scanner in each card. We had typically 2 blue ballot bins, sometimes more, depending on the number of voters we were going to serve. The green bag went in that card, the BMD went in that card, the blue bag, which is the sign bag, went in that card, electronic boards, paper for the printers, and then on top was placed the table for the ballot marking device, the ADA table. We did not. In some jurisdictions, the voting booths were packed in the black carts. We opted not to do that because we were sending out more than, say, 3 or 4 voting booths, and we felt that it would be just better logistically if we packed them all loose. So they went in a loose stack. Say if there were 10, 12, 20 voting booths, they were on the outside of the black cart. This is part of the process, just packing up the numerous pieces of supplies, and they go into the green bag. These are the red bags. That's the critical material that the chiefs need. Now, polling place support program. This was the debriefing of the polling place support with the league volunteers. The program is designed to support the mandated polling place audit program. The evaluation forms are provided by the state, and that's what the volunteers use to follow when they are out at the polling places. The league is contracted to conduct the evaluations. There were 58 routes that were created, and the volunteers either had the responsibility of reviewing 3 or 4 precinct polling places. Volunteers attended an election judge training class, were provided additional guidance through pre-election briefing, and were given a packet of supplies and documentation to aid the evaluation process. Volunteers are invaluable in this process. They're out there, they can support the judges if needed, and they bring back first-hand knowledge to the board for review. Candidate filing is usually about a year, starts about a year prior to the primary election, and then ends about two and a half months prior to the actual election day. We, during that year, field numerous questions either on the phone or through emails or meeting the public out front. We use multiple venues to communicate with them. And in this election, we filed 9 school board candidates, and I believe we signed nominations today. All right.
For 6 of them.
6.
Remaining 6,
That-
right?
Yeah, the remaining 6, 2 for each of the contests.
When you say sign nominations, what does that involve?
It's the certificate of nomination, and once you pass through once the candidate passes through the primary election, a certificate of nomination is sent out to each candidate. Because we only were serving school board candidates this time, we had Jim and Mary Ann sign the certificates today.
Chris, can you go back about 3 slides to the red bags? I just want to point something out to the board members.
Okay.
The level, that picture was not staged for the camera. I think that it is important on the back end of this election, as we're going through the lessons learned. Right there in that picture, you see the just habitual level of organization, the meticulousness that our Ryan in particular downstairs doing the supplies. I went through an implementation once before somewhere else. I mean, this is the kind of thing where it is very easy for things to fall between the cracks. It is very easy for old information to get packed in supplies. It is very easy for lots of wires to get crossed when you've got so many last minute changes, which we had this time. The level of meticulousness and organization that Chris and Ryan bring to this show, and every time I go downstairs to take a picture like that, it looks like military form down there. And I just want to commend Ryan in particular for that, because it makes a huge difference.
Right, yeah, that was wonderful.
You were in the color coordination.
It is amazing. If there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you very much, Chris.
I had one in the cabinets that you have the scanner in, and all the other. When a precinct has more than one scanner, do you send 2 of those?
2 cabinets.
Completely packed with everything. Okay.
It might not be as full as you see this one when there's multiple scanners,
but they
we
get
utilize the space best we can.
Okay, but they get the whole shebang.
Yes.
Okay.
But if we are successful getting the lease for this one election, we will not be getting another 125 black cards.
Oh, we won't?
No, well, for beginners, I don't know where we put them. Yeah. We want, another 125 cards will not.
No more space in the building that we can lease.
Well, we might be able to squeeze in 50, but not 125.
So then it becomes a delivery issue, I guess, huh?
Well, there'll be 2 carts in there'll be 2 scanners in every cart.
Oh, so the blue boxes won't be in there, they'll go another way.
Blue boxes, 1 box blue bin will be inside the scanner. And we're not going to be able to make those decisions
until we get someone equipped. Now, you were going to have a question about the blue bins, the
Well-
delivery.
Yeah.
We have met with police and office movers and county security to discuss how that can be improved and what we're going to do in the future.
Well, I guess, let me go back to the basics, because I'm not real clear on how the blue bins get taken care of. They don't come back in the black cart. Why?
Because the blue bins, the voted ballots,
Mhm.
are not going to stay in the precinct. It takes us anywhere from 4 to 6 days to pick up, and that's not including the weekend.
And they have to be there.
Ballots have to be in here the night
So
of the election.
how had we arranged to pick them up? It wasn't office movers.
Yes, it was.
Oh, it was.
Office movers with a county employee, because the office movers couldn't pick, I mean, they could drive the vehicle, but we had to have a separate county employee pick up the actual blue bins, put them in the van, and it just took too long. And so what we're looking at doing is the black, and this is not final, okay? We're still working this out with police and office movers, because that's really who we have to work it out with. But we're looking at having the individual, what we're calling the voting operations driver, who brings back the black bag with the preliminary election results, will also bring back the blue bins, and they will be uploaded at the regional site, because one of the things that we discovered is that even though we have to pay overtime to general services for all of these people that work, those same general services people were the people that were in the trucks around the 38 routes, or however many routes we had, trying to pick up all of these blue bins. And we were just, the county and all the support staff was stretched to the limit. This way we can have 7 or 8 regional upload sites as well as collection sites. Office movers can have their truck there. We can have our general services guys there. They can pick up the blue bins, put them in the truck, and so flash drive 0101 comes, two blue bins, they land in the truck, and then hopefully everything will be in by 10 o'clock.
And do you think those people are going to be, that are doing that, now they're only responsible for bringing in the flash drive. They got to have equipment to handle the blue bins, right? A car that'll
They'll have to have a vehicle that can hold the
blue bins. And how heavy are those bins when they...
Well, you know what, but we're still fleshing this out.
Okay.
So but I can guarantee you that the chief judges have made it clear they're not going to wait for someone to pick up the blue bins. So everybody's goal is that the blue bins with the black flash drive will be out of the polling place with a normal close time of 8 o'clock. They'll be en route driving towards one of our site or one of the regional sites, and in-house by 10, here or the regional site by 10 o'clock.
Did they get out of the polling place, the chief judges, later under this process of waiting for the blue bins to be picked up than they did under the old system where they were waiting to close down the whole place?
I don't think so. It's a kind of a combination of things, because what we told the chief judges, and I gave the briefings to all 3 or 4 chief judge briefing, is that their instructions were that 10 minutes after the last voter voted, they were to go to their scanner, not zero it out, but run the tapes that they needed to, and they were to remove the blue bins. The blue bins were supposed to be standing by the door, and whoever the driver was supposed to hop in their car and drive to their regional upload site. One of the things that was reported repeatedly is that these voting operations drivers stood around and waited for I don't know what.
Everybody was done uploading by 10:30ish.
Yes. That's the guys were back here by 11.
Yeah, because all of our guys were back by 11. So if we could get that successful, but why they decided to wait around, I don't know. But we had, okay, so then office movers reported to us when we sat down with office movers and the police, is that they would show up at a polling place. I'm going to pick on Damascus Library because it was a small precinct. For whatever reason, they weren't ready. So they ended up waiting. And so what was supposed to be ready at 8:10, 8:15 now is 8:25. And it just was progressively worse. So as they went and did their route, everybody's standing around waiting for these office movers. And then the other issue became, at a certain point, I think like at 9:30, 10 o'clock, the building service managers were closing the doors. So office movers couldn't get, or the county employees couldn't get in the front door. So you have the inside room where the blue bins are, and then you have office movers pounding on the door trying to get in. So it didn't work. So I agree with you. The purpose was to prevent people from having to lift those heavy blue bins. And what we're going to have to be is sensitive to the fact those roamers that originally try to pull in their day around 8:30 are going to have to be communicating with these chief judges and say, let's say we have a precinct that has somebody that's in a wheelchair, then we're going to have to, and the driver judge, because before just driving a black bag wasn't a big deal, we're going to have to make sure that somebody's down there, able to load that material into there and then drive it down or whatever.
I think it's going to be huge because you're dealing basically with a sort of a senior population in terms of judges.
That's true, but we also have a lot of young judges, a lot of young kids. We have the highest number of young adults, 17 and 18-year-olds working for us.
Yeah, I think.
But are they there that late at night? I mean, are they there at the end of the day?
Yeah, you'll have to have shifts in the evening. I agree with
Yeah.
that. The only other thing I can think of is put them on wheels.
Yeah, well.
Put them on wheels.
Still
can't get it in
on
your
wheels.
car.
Yeah, the issue is most people drive like a four-door sedan, and picking up a blue. I mean, I tried it myself. Picking up a fully loaded blue bin. Number one, it can't be done, and even when I had somebody help me, getting it over the lip of the car, it's tricky. You got to have somebody who's got some upper body strength.
Yeah, so maybe it is the young people. Make sure there's some schedule for clothing.
At least healthy people that have upper body strength.
Well, and it can be more than one
5
judge
of them
with
in
each
Montgomery
box,
County.
too. You can have a couple people lifting it, so.
Margaret, we were anticipating that there would be a team of people out at the polls so that, say, maybe the closers, the people that are designated as closers, could help get the blue bins in the cars. And then when they arrive at the satellite, we will have our staff, our DGS and our office moving staff there that can help unload the car.
Yeah.
There's a good distance too sometimes from the inside of the polls to the.
The
Well, but the
closer
clerks
and the
are on wheels,
VOPD
aren't
roles
they?
are evolving.
wheels on
I mean, they were positions that required more of a, we were looking for people to go out and be more technical after work. And increasingly, I think it's becoming can you lift some heavy boxes and get them into your minivan or SUV? We kind of need somebody who's got a larger vehicle and is able to lift stuff to take on those roles in polling places now.
I can see the discrimination laws now.
But Jackie, they are on wheels now, so they
Are
can,
they on wheels?
Yeah, they
Okay.
can be wheeled out to
Well,
the
that's what I was
car
thinking,
and then
okay.
just lifted into the car.
Then it's still
Well,
in.
Jackie, they have
just-
a handle, it's almost like a luggage.
Yeah, but you
Okay.
don't want to pull it up. Okay. We discussed a letter from Banoff and Jay Park. New business, state senate hearing. Jim will be there. Allison will be there tomorrow.
And then that's pretty much it for now. Future meetings, I don't know if the board wants to discuss whether you want to have an August meeting or not.
We discuss it next month. Or?
Yeah. I don't know if people need to make plans for the,
You talking about August?
Yes,
What have we,
I'm
what have we
talking
done in the
about the
past,
August.
Mary?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, you know, an election year, I think we have held it. And it would depend on, you know, what it looks like, I guess, in terms of what we're gonna have to do.
What's the thinking of the board?
Could we leave that up to Jim and Margaret, it's what business is gonna come up, and see if that's needed?
I just brought it up because of other people. I don't know what other people are doing in terms of planning family leaves and family vacations. So that's why I brought it up. But if it's not an issue now, then
I mean, I won't be here for the July meeting because of that issue, but I'll be here for August
Okay.
if the decision was made to happen.
okay.
I'll be here for both.
I won't be here.
Okay, then that's it.
We have to adjourn this. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we're gonna
Wait a minute.
move the,
Do we want you to
No, we
close
have to go to
those
Board of
around?
Canvassers.
So we
You all
just-
have to sign
Just
them.
totally adjourn this meeting.
Yeah, do we have a motion to adjourn the Board of Elections?
I'm-
meeting?
I'm moving, we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Any discuss, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
I thought these had to be done during the meeting.
No, so we're adjourned.
Motion to
And we have to open
convene the
as.
Board of Canvassers.
Is there a motion to convene the Board of
I move
Canvassers? Is there
to
a
convene
second?
the Board
Second.
of Canvassers.
Okay. We're now in session as the Board of Canvassers,
Right.
and the business,
Here they
Margaret,
come.
is...
You have two
Oh, hold
absentee
on.
ballots that are too late.
Too late, okay. You want us to sign it, the envelope? or not?
Sure, you can initial it.
Initial, not sign, I mean initial.
Well, this one is postmarked June 2nd.
What?
That's a
June
joke.
2nd.
Well,
Maybe they're
Better late than
California.
never.
never fault the asker.
Try.
Who
Yeah.
has to sign? Who has to initial it? Just two members?
Yeah, just two is fine.
You have to sign.
What's the other one, June?
But we need for you to vote to
Okay.
accept,
Oh, let's pass it
to
around.
reject.
Put your initial digit.
Vote to reject.
The other one, the brown one, it doesn't indicate, that, at least so far as I can see, when it was actually postmarked, but
Right here on the end, is that it right there on the end, over here? Maybe
I
not.
see the stamp. Now, there is a stamp on the back,
It
which is
doesn't
in
matter when-
Chinese characters.
Over a month out.
Oh.
We just got them?
Well, the election is certified, so
It's
you're
not-
Yeah.
be able to change
Doesn't
it.
matter.
So.
I passed them. Now, let's- Once everybody looks at it, we'll...
Okay.
We're just gonna vote after everybody looks at it. David?
Did you vote on that?
Actually, I
Huh?
may need to
Did
initial.
you vote on,
No, we have to. Just let David look. So we're voting to reject, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We need a motion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, this is the one where
I'm
you
good.
can't tell anything, huh? Or, no, I guess that, no.
But Marianne, it was
2012.
received.
That won't
It was
do.
received.
That was the time. But there's no,
It says
It's just
received by
Yeah.
this date.
in, right?
All right, so is there a is there a motion to reject these two?
Hold on,
absentee
they're
ballots?
still looking.
Oh, no.
Well, there's nothing we
I
can do.
move to
There's
reject
no-
this too.
Oh, unless we,
Oh.
don't we,
It still had to be
oh, come on,
received by
Mary
the
Ann.
Friday.
It's been certified, the election's been
Second.
certified, we can't accept
It was
Right.
received on
I
June 7th.
understand, it may,
Oh, my gosh.
4/25/16,
Okay.
Where'd it come from?
China or someplace, isn't it?
On the slope.
Nice, good stamps.
China?
Is there a motion to reject
I
those
already
two
did
ballots?
that.
You made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of
Certified.
rejecting those two ballots because they were late?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So now do we have a motion to adjourn the Board of Canvassers?
yes.
I move we adjourn the Board of
Second?
Canvassers.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're adjourned. So our next meeting is July 18th.